Dancers, come forward, walk out. This one I got worldwide.
Just days after former government backbencher Ralph Thorne crossed the floor, he's taken the oath of office as leader of the opposition.
Cross the floor, let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Ralph Thorne. The other side. Cross the floor. Cross the floor. Cross the floor, let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Wait there. Ralph Thorne. Dancing, come back again. Our turn is the latest trend. Everybody know link up my friend. This one designed to be.
And more will be left over.
Dancing, come back again. Our turn is the latest.
Are these trips so important?
Link up my friend. This one designed to be living out.
Yes, I'm for real, member. I am for real. Don't let me talk out your business. Don't let me talk out your business. All right. There has to be some order here. The Minister of Finance is not party to this present transaction, Your Honor. Ask him to keep quiet, please. And I say to you further, Mr. Speaker, that my conscience, my location here is related to my conscience. I said it last year. It is well with my soul.
Take a wine on the right side, take a wine on the left side. And I can't decide, so I'm moving with the tide. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. So let me do this now. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. Yeah, and let me go now. Cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor. Let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Ralph Thorne. On the other side, cross the floor. Cross the floor, let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Ralph Thorne.
That is my man, so whether he cross or in cross, he will always be there for us.
I came to a point where I had to take the decision that if my philosophical and political views do not accord with those of government in terms of its legislation, in terms of its policy, the relationship becomes untenable.
One Yes, Barbados. Yes, Barbados. Lost Barbados. Barbados. Good night, Barbados. How are we tonight? It is Wednesday, March the 12th, 7:06 p.m. And I tell you, you know us loyal opposition. We are excited. We were so proud to be Barbadian today. We saw democracy working today. We saw the leader of the opposition literally carrying on his back the cries and concerns of the people of Barbados. And as I sat there and as I watched on my screen, I thought to myself, can you imagine what kind of budget response? Actually, there would be no budget response if he was not there. Try to imagine, people, Barbados. We could try to convince ourselves that we're in a democracy and there would be no response to the budget. What would that be like? What would that be like? This man stood there for 11 and a half hours. And they say, why did he have to take that long? Because it's that many. The concerns are that many. And he's the only one. And he stood there at the risk of his health to carry on his back the concerns, the cries, the woes. Many of the issues I heard him raise today, Barbadians, were the issues that come into my phone up to this evening. People are messaging about the QEH. This man. And, you know, guys, this is not about worshiping anybody, but I want you to consider, what would it be like if there was nobody there to do a reply to the budget. So tonight I want to start off the show by applauding Mr. Ralph Thorne, Honorable Ralph Thorne, leader of the opposition, for so selflessly. It's an act of sacrifice, sir, that you carried the cries of Barbadians. You carried on your back the woes of Barbadians into a place where many times we could see you were being ridiculed, being made out to look like you were telling lies. Here you were representing 280,000 people to give us a semblance of democracy. Oh my goodness. Sir, we want to say thank you. If you want to say thank you to Mr. Thorne, everybody, those who want to say thank you, say thank you, guys. And listen, this is not about worshiping a man. What we're talking about is the fact that this position as leader of the opposition, he didn't have to take it up because it's hard work. It is hard work, guys, but we need that voice. We need that voice. It's always important to have that opposing voice. And that we begin to get some semblance of democracy. And that's what we do on the outside. I have coming on Jehan, and is going to come on. Sator is going to come on, and Sonny. And these are voices of opposition, you know. It's not just Mr. Thorne. It's you. Every time you come on here, you make up that concerted voice, right, of opposition. We make a chorus of opposition. Mr. Thorne on the inside and we on the outside. Okay, the senators, the oppositional senators that are there, then we all join. They are in the parliament and we are outside the parliament. The Jehans are outside the parliament. The Sunnis are outside the parliament. Huh? All of us, we make up that chorus of opposition. And when we do that, we are preserving the democracy of Barbados. Good night, Nigel, Carrington, Vernon, Guards, good night. And that's why we do the show. We do the show to ensure that there is a voice of opposition in this country. That's what we do. Dr. Ferdinand, he shared a thought with us. I'm not sure who is the author of this quote, but he said, the voice of the people is the voice of God. The voice of the people is the voice of God. And Queen B is saying enough is enough. Jeffrey Sobers, good night. Mavis Lashley, good night. I have to call as many of your names before Jehan comes on here, because you are part of the opposition. You are, and we have been saying that since we started off. We said, listen, all 280,000 of us make up the opposition. When I was saying that, we didn't know, we didn't meet Jehan yet. We didn't meet Sonny yet, but they were opposing. They were fighting for their communities. Yes, Born Again, Joyanne, Faith, Kim Tay, yeah. Oh my God, Kim says if 3 hours is enough to speak about the leader of the opposition's performance. Oh, Kim Tay, I want you all to call in tonight. This is our Barbados. And regardless of who it is, if it's Mr. Thorne, Mr. Atherley, whoever is in there, it's not about the personality, really. It's about the office, about the function and what they're doing. Okay? And I can see my guest is ready, but I want to big up these Kim Tay, these opposition members as well. Judy Jilks, Sharon Kane, all of you. And I mean it. All of you make up the opposition, man. And Jehan is going to come and talk to us about breaking out of fear, Judy Jilks. And I tell you, I have seen us grow and we have come out of fear, Kim. Yeah, Kim Tay, we have seen us come out of fear. We see people like Mr. Thorne who was bold enough to stand up. And you know what, Square 4? A lot of us are losing that fear. And Jehan is going to come on and talk about that. I just want to big up everybody, all you members of the loyal opposition. You remember when we were on here and we didn't have Mr. Thorne? How many of you remember that? And we were laboring 4 nights a week. You remember Teroni? Who remember? Lucinda, you remember? And we were here, and then God blessed us, and we had opposition inside Parliament. And I tell you, what we are doing, the Costa Field, don't let anybody say, oh, you're worshiping Mr. Thorne. You know what we're doing? We are celebrating, and we are preserving opposition. We are preserving our democracy. I needed to say, when we celebrate opposition, we are preserving our democracy. Very important, Hugh Howard. Everybody thanking him. Very good. We need to thank him, because I'm telling you, I'm tired, and I didn't do not even a quarter of what he did. And I'm tired. I'm telling you, I'm drinking so much coffee. Yeah. Yes, people are saying thank you. Yes, guys, we can say thank you regardless of the party that we're from, whether we like the party he's chosen to be part of. I'm not a member of that party, and as I told you all, I'm more independent minded. But guys, I have to support the people who are supporting us. Okay, the people. Bim the Beautiful says, for that man to go in there every day. Let me bring in Jehan as I read this. He says, I must say, for that man to go in there every day and face 29 alone, it takes a certain kind of person to do what he does or what he's doing. Thank you much, sir. Blessings to you and your family. It's called leadership, is what it's called. I am telling you, I know I know what that is. That what is. Let me just say a big, big welcome to Jehan. Jehan, welcome to the Marcy Week Show.
Hey, thanks for having me back again.
Listen, and you heard me bigging you up from the time I met you. You had such a brave spirit about you. Just so I said, look at this young man. You were writing the newspapers, you were calling brass tacks, you were taking pictures and taking videos. And as I said, I see you, Jayan, as part of the opposition who is seeking to preserve democracy in this country. And I want to salute you, sir.
Well, thanks. Marcia, they say that um, evil is lived spelled backwards, right? So if you
Evil is
really,
evil is live spelled backwards.
right, something so simple is so true. And I believe it was Mark Twain that said that truth is stranger than fiction. But this is
Mm,
because fiction is obliged to stick to probability. Truth is not,
mm,
right? So when you really think about a statement like that, and you add to that something that Leonardo da Vinci famously said, there are three classes of people: those who see when they are shown, and those who do not see. So that suggests that there's some kind of hierarchy of
repeat that, please. Repeat that. Those who see.
there are three classes of people: those who
Uh-huh.
see, those who
Mm-hmm.
see when they are shown, and those who do not see.
Mm,
So what I'm saying is that there's a hierarchy of perception where there are some people who have an innate ability to see and understand the world around them,
mm-hmm,
and there's
mm-hmm.
others that require guidance to perceive things clearly. And that's what you're
Yes.
doing here, right? And there are going to be those that fail to see or understand, and those kinds of people are probably committed to not understanding anyway
Mm-hmm.
because of the level of conditioning and fear that they experience on a daily basis, right? So, we talk about these political leaders when they're out of line as though they're really the problem, but in reality, they're not the ones that are the problem. It is the
Mm-hmm.
ones who don't want to see and those that don't want to understand, because it is their livelihood, it is their children and grandchildren and generations beyond them that are affected by not
Mm.
saying and doing the right thing, right? We are
Why,
the
why,
ones that give
why
them
do you,
our
can you
vote.
break that down a little bit for us? Because you said that it's not really the leaders that are the problem. It's the people, you're saying. The people who don't want to see.
Yeah, because so let me pick up from where I left off on Sunday, because I hit y'all with some psychological stories that were, I
Yes,
could
and
see some
actually,
disturbed
you
looks.
you are. This is your training. You're a counselor. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But go right
yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
So I was talking about on Sunday, I was talking about the psychology of nationalism. So Alfred Korzybski, who's a Polish American philosopher, is best known for something called a theory of general semantics. And
Mm,
basically that focused on how language and symbols shape our perception of reality. So
mm-hmm,
already you can bring to mind Barbados flag and how we have all been conditioned
mm-hmm,
to follow what we have been told about that particular
mm-hmm.
symbol, right?
Okay. You're
Whereas
breaking up a bit. You're breaking up a bit, but let's see if it gets better. Continue.
it should be a personal
Breaking up. Breaking up a
thing.
bit.
But what Krzyzewski was saying,
Yes. Okay. Jehan, are you close to your Wi-Fi box? Jehan, are you close to your Wi-Fi box? He's not even hearing me at all. Jehan?
you hear me?
Okay, I'm hearing you now. Are you close to your Wi-Fi box? Your Wi-Fi is delayed. There's a big
Can you hear me?
delay on. We can hear you now. Keep speaking. Yeah, not hearing. What you could do, Jehan, is to go out and come back in. Okay. All right, so we're going to wait to see if Jan can get his Wi-Fi sorted. But I'll use the time to read some of what you're saying, because I want to hear from you, the opposition, tonight. I want to hear from you. Somebody here says, I'm not a DLP member, but I support what they're doing. And Mr. Thorne made me feel really proud. And he was professional. He walked and talked like a champion prime minister. Oh my goodness. Wow. I hope he's listening, or somebody can tell him some of these these great things that people are saying about him. Somebody said, love Mr. Thorne, he's for the poor. Right? And somebody said they dared the BLP to call an election. Somebody said he was bravo. Somebody said, excellent job, Mr. Thorne, in his reply to the budget when you thought he couldn't get any better, then boom. I mean, last year when he shut out, we were like, what? And then this year, Dale says, good night, lawyer. Mr. Thorne delivered an excruciating, I think is one of the government last night and today. His presentation was excellent. Now, how about those that said that they thought that it was too long? How many of you thought it was too long? Yeah, folks? Yes, they said he showed how he loved Barbados and the citizens of Barbados. Yes. Wonderful. Okay, the Jayan is back on. Ooh, Jayan is having troubles. He's having some challenges. What we're going to do while we work on some of the issues Jayan is having, we're going to show an excerpt. I'm going to show you an excerpt of Mr. Thorne, and I want to. If Jayan, if we don't get the stuff resolved with Jayan, I'm going to play an excerpt, and I want you to call me. I want you to call and reply to what you're hearing. So we're going to go through some of the some of the what Mr. Thorne, his response was today, and yes, go ahead, Dave.
I had the privilege of speaking to Mr. Stephen Lashley most recently. And he confirmed to me that he had to fight with UNESCO to have the area of the garrison designated as a heritage site, the garrison and Bridgetown. All of this pertains to the budget, my friend. Go and read the speech that you didn't read yesterday. All of this has to do with the budget. All of this has to do with government in Barbados. And Mr. Stephen Lashley had to fight against UNESCO to have that area designated as a heritage site. Greater Bridgetown and the garrison. And the people of this country now hear that the geriatric hospital and those historic buildings around the garrison are to fall under the destructive hammer of tyranny. And the phraseology will be repeated. Tourism-related facilities. And if there's to be any reminder, I got up in here a few weeks ago and very gently asked the government to give the people of this country details on Whole Town. And I asked the government in whose name Whole Town was going to be vested. Hansard is there. And if you don't want Hansard, go on YouTube. And I asked this government in whose name was the land to be vested. And 2 ministers got up and said, the lands are being vested in BTI, Barbados Tourism Investment. The plot has thickened, and so has the transaction thickened. And I was told on behalf of the people of Barbados that the Insurance Corporation of Barbados Limited was lending one side 40, the other side 46. I have an excellent memory. That 40 or $46 million was being lent to BTI to construct tourism-related facilities at Old Town. And in the aftermath of that disclosure, things seem to be rather different from what those honorable ministers told this parliament. And I talk about trust, and I talk about trust in a government, and I talk about the loss of people's trust in this government. And from Old Town, we go to Bridgetown. And Mr. Stephen Lashley worked hard to have that designation. Is the government going to desecrate the designation of that area as a heritage site, which is intricately bound up with the tourism project in this country? Many of our tourists are heritage tourists. As
Okay,
we
let's pause right there. Let's pause. So, folks, I'm not if Jehan is going to, his browser crashed. But listen, the lines are opened up, folks, and we're going to just do pieces, right? We're going to go in pieces tonight, little piece at a time, little piece at a time. So, in that segment, in that little piece of of the 11 and a half hours, I don't know. Okay, all right. So Jan is able to come back on, but I want you to get ready. I want you to get ready to call in. Okay, folks, I want you to get ready to call in. And I'm sure, I don't know if Jan heard any of that. I know he's sorting out himself there. Okay. Hi, Jan.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Good. Good. I
yes.
don't know what's happening with Flow lately, but I've been getting some really bad internet. So I'm working in, so whatever. That's
Well,
another issue in itself.
I'm glad that you are able to join us again. But you know, we look at, I don't know if you were able to hear any of what Mr. Thorne was just saying about that BTII and the ICBL. The stories just keep changing, and you know, and when you see his bravery in Parliament, you know, Jayan, in asking those kinds of questions. And he actually asked the questions before, he was asking these questions before the senator spoke about it in the Senate, you know. And we see, you listen to him, and then you see a lot of Barbadians who, you know, they're afraid to speak out. But he's Barbadian. And you wonder, how did he break free from that pattern of fear and step towards that kind of personal freedom? Talk to us about that. How do you break free from fear, like Mr. Thorne has done, and step into that kind of personal freedom?
Right. So that kind of goes with what I was saying. I was just explaining how this particular type of psychology is used to manipulate people's beliefs and their emotions and what they do, right? So when I say that, I'm speaking to the people who will hear us talking or will hear Ralph Thorne talking. They don't understand where he's coming from because of the level of social control, I suppose you can call it. Because the goal right now is to control the narrative. And Ralph Thorne is, what he's doing is he's attempting to expose everything that is going on, hoping that people will have enough integrity. And I think that he's probably has broken free from the typical patterns um, of thinking out of necessity. You understand? I
Yes,
think
yes.
I think that in when it comes to breaking patterns of fear and manipulation, where we are right now is kind of like a leaf that has fallen from a tree or spiraling away from your source, right? You're spiraling away from autonomy and personal freedom. And the more that that psychology of nationalism is used against us, where they say, "Oh, look, everything we do is for you. You know, we're patriots just like you," and basically, essentially, they gaslight us because see what they would do. They would give Ralph Thorne the opportunity to say what he has to say, and then at the end, certain people will wrap up, and then it will convince you that what was said is not the reality because they don't want you to question that, right? You can
Mm.
only you can only understand this concept by trying to wrap your head around the fact that in the whole world right now, everything is just based on fear and manipulation, and that is the main way that dictates how societies function. Period. Everything is about your beliefs, everything is about your behaviors, and everything is about your decisions. So, just like if I had a client coming to me with an emotional issue, I would have to encourage them to take 100% personal responsibility for everything that goes on in their lives in order to move forward. So, on an individual level, every single Barbadian has to take personal responsibility for their beliefs, their behaviors, and their decisions. And I guess because through media and political systems and social conditioning, people usually get exposed to forces that limit their freedom,
Mm-hmm.
both mentally and emotionally. So, what is going on in a person's personal life is the same thing that's going on in the macrocosm, in the whole, in the
Mm-hmm.
collective, right? So you have to learn to break free from patterns of control because let's say you're addicted to something. Let's say something really simple. You want to lose 20 pounds, but you can't stop eating two peanut butter sandwiches at midnight because you get up hungry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, have to assess that. And that pattern of behavior is no different to shutting down out of fear
Mm-hmm.
because essentially it's self sabotage. And that just happens to be something that I'm a global expert in. People call me all the time from all over the world to talk about that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we sabotage our best attempts at freedom by being too afraid to admit that what we know we should be doing, we're not doing. We
So,
want
so,
to.
so, Jehan, I love how you explain that and your definition of self sabotage.
Mhm,
Do you think we're doing that as a nation right now? We hear, like, for example, we hear all of this exposure that happened 11 and a half hours by the leader of the opposition.
mhm.
We listen to it. Is it a case where, as you said, some people hear but they don't really hear? How do you see that this self-sabotage and working in nationally for us as Barbadians?
Because usually when a person is self sabotaging, there's a saying in psychology that behind every behavior is a reward. And so,
Mm-hmm,
because self sabotage is coming deep from within the subconscious, in this
mm-hmm,
instance, the collective subconscious, it is all the ideas that we are being fed by particular political parties or over a period of exposure of time. Obviously, we're born and there's people in leadership already. So,
mm-hmm,
we will be bringing in all of these beliefs about what it means to be a Barbadian, how politics should be done, ideas that somebody has our best interest, and so we give up our responsibility
mm-hmm,
and we don't want to admit to ourselves that everything is not okay and that we actually are the ones that have to save ourselves by what does the
mm-hmm,
national anthem say? By credit to our nation, right? By our living, we
wow.
must do those things. So that's how I'm tying into the psychology of nationalism with the whole way that we are actually self-sabotaging ourselves when we see something. They tell us all the time, if you see something, say something. But then
Yeah.
when you see something and you say something, then what do? They gaslight you. It's crazy making. They say your perception is not the reality. You didn't see that happen. right? We got it under control. And so what Ralph Thorne is doing is he's taking several steps. So the first step would be to encourage people to cultivate critical thinking when he exposes things, or anybody else, but I guess he's standing on his own in this instance. But people like you included, you're trying to get people to critically think, because the foundation for breaking free from fear and manipulation starts with education and critical thinking, right? People have to learn to question the information that they receive. So that means that whether it's from the media, from you or me, from politicians or institutions, in the age of information, ignorance is a choice, right? That is a popular saying. So you have to learn to evaluate facts, analyze your sources, seek other perspectives, and actually, the more perspectives you have, this is why I've told you in confidence, in our little chats, that bipartisan politics and that way of thinking is done globally, because there's things going wrong everywhere else in the world. Look at America. We are watching the controlled demolition of America right now, right? And it's happening in other countries too. It may not seem that way to many, but essentially, if you're paying attention, we are going to head on that same path. Because as Bob Marley famously said, one day the bottom are gonna drop out, right? And you have to work on your understanding of the world and look at Barbados and say, okay, well, yeah, I never thought that would happen here, but I am seeing it happen here. That is the only way that you can reduce your likelihood to falling victim to, I'm just going to say, propaganda, manipulation. You notice that a lot of the stuff that certain people want us to believe is constantly repeated over and over, right? And I'm trying to remember the guy, Joseph Goebbels, Nazi propaganda minister.
Yes.
Said he's famous for saying straight out, propaganda must therefore always be essential and repetitious. It must confine itself to a few points and repeat them over and over. Now, who
Can you
does
do
that
that
sound like?
one more time, Jayan? Just do that one more time for us. Say
Who's
that
this?
again.
What,
And,
that
and I,
quote?
I see Sunny. Sunny is waiting there, and I'm gonna bring her in right on that point. Go ahead, repeat that, and then I'm gonna bring Sunny in and have her say something about that.
Yes, Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, said that propaganda must therefore always be essential and repetitious. It must confine itself to a few points and repeat them over and over. So I said, who and what does that sound like to you? Right? Hi, Sunny.
Yeah, let's welcome Sunny. And Sunny, I was we're saying Sunny. That's you. What's your full name? This is Lynn. Okay, Lynn Boynton. But
Yeah.
but Sunny is, we call her Sunny. But Sunny, we're here talking about breaking free from fear, and also how the state can keep us controlled, and keep us fearful. And is that my, yeah, and we just heard a definition of propaganda, or not a definition, but how the propaganda is being used, but you are here in Barbados, and for some reason you decided that you are going to get up and you're going to speak about Gibbs Gully, and you live there, etc. Have you, I mean, how did you get rid of this fear and overcome the propaganda?
Just to add to that, while we're on the Nazi Party, I think it was Hitler that said that the bigger the lie you tell, the more believable it will be. People will believe it, and that's the way that the world operates. And we have been told so many big lies, especially recently over the last 5 years, that people have really bought into. Well, I think, as my husband, I've always been a bit of a stroppy so I don't take anything lightly. I always question everything. And when we, just to go back to what did happen, so in 2020, I didn't buy into it at all. as again, my husband Giles will testify. And I was the only one of our friends that didn't. And I was really trying to warn everybody about what was really happening. And of course, I was called all sorts of names, conspiracy theorist and all the other things, crazy woman. But I think you're right. If you have critical thinking, maybe it's a blessing, maybe it's something you learn. I don't know. I think faith in God is probably helpful. I think that you see the truth more if you have a faith. Sorry, but getting back to Gibbs Gully. Well, the thing is, I just couldn't let this happen to this. You were all there Sunday, this beautiful place that we live in, and somebody's going to come along threatening to put a mini city in this wonderful residential quiet area. Nobody's asked for that. We've all bought houses in a quiet area because that's where we want to live. We like the countryside. I've never lived in a city. I never want to. If we all wanted shops and restaurants and cafes, we'd have bought down in Holetown. We didn't. We bought in this lovely rural area. And it's not just the fact that it's a sense of community as well. Look what they're doing to Six Men's. They don't care about the Bajan people. They don't care about community. They just care about money. And I care about the Bajan people. I care about this beautiful country. And I didn't want to let it be just bulldozed over and concreted over. So that was my motivation.
Yeah, for standing up and breaking out. Well, I don't even know if you had any fear, but you're not even born here. I'm sure you had to overcome something, saying, wow, but I'm not born here. What are people going to say? Did you have any fear that you believe you had to overcome as you started your journey?
I guess so, but I do have a strong faith, and I do believe that I'm wearing the armor of God. So that's what I'm coming from.
That's really it. So your faith was very, very important in Jayan, I listened to the little segment there that we played from Mr. Thorne, and it spoke about where the first thing that they told us about, the first thing that they told us about this whole town redevelopment. They're going to demolish the civic center and put up a 9-story hotel. And he said that when he asked first, the first thing that they said is that it was going to be vested in BTII, and that ICBL was going to lend the money. Later, as you were talking about propaganda, I thought of this, but later when they started to push them, they then said ICBL is the developer. So ICBL is no longer the insurance company that is lending money. ICBL is now the developer. And I thought about that as you were talking about propaganda. And if we did not insert ourselves in the whole thing, that would have been repeated, right? And repeated until we actually believe that. Any thoughts on that, Jehan?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is the number one tactic of the individuals in question, Marcia. And that's what they do. They formulate a narrative and they run it until somebody notices. And that is one of the reasons why I've told you in our private chats that the lie is different at every level, because they will have a narrative for every level of person involved. They'll have a narrative for the public. They'll have a narrative for the potential investors. They'll have a narrative for those who are orchestrating the whole thing. And then they will have a narrative for those in government who are just watching as it goes on, because they have their goal at the top to achieve. And everybody's down here saying different things, right? And it's kind of like, how do you put a wrench in that operation, really? Mm-hmm. Once it gets to that point where everybody's running around with a chicken without a head, telling different stories about a situation. So you create a particular type of order from this chaos that is occurring. So while everybody's running around believing a bunch of crap, you're over here doing the real thing, right? It's a distraction tactic. And that's usually how it's done. I mean, you look at any political structure, you go through any articles anywhere in the world, and you look at major events, you will see the same patterns. But I'll tell you what's the good news. When you have people like Ralph Thorne and us and whoever else is brave enough to talk about it, people will eventually realize that the problem with a pattern is that it repeats itself in the same way over and over. But if it's a pattern that has failed, it will fail, right?
Hmm.
And that's when I said to you sometime earlier last week that these people use the same tactics over and over. So it is our responsibility then to educate again, like I said, and teach people how to critically think and recognize these patterns so that we can, on an individual level, say, wait, hold on, I've seen that before. We're not doing that, right? Because it is us that gives them our vote. We are the ones that are in control, you know. Their biggest fear is that the average man on the street realizes what's going on and they say, hold on, stop. You can't get my vote. We are not going to allow a room full of what, 30-something people to dictate how my grandchildren live their lives 20, 30, 40 years down the road, right? You're not going to let you dictate what's left for us. You're not going to give us the scraps, right?
Wow, this is deep. The lie is different at every level. And Sonny, when you hear that and you think about Gibbs, what are some of the lies that you have heard? Because you've sat down with the at planning and development, you sat down at different levels with this Gibbs. As you reflect on what Jayan is saying, he's dropping a lot of stuff on us tonight. I'm hearing an echo in my setup here tonight, but we're pressing on. The lie is different at every level. How was it? Can you describe that for you in the Gibbs situation?
Yes. The trouble is that everybody tells a different story, and you never get the same story 2 times running. So it just whiffs of, well, I'm not going to say the word, but it just doesn't smell right. Let's put it that way. They just speak out of both sides of their mouths. Everybody that's involved in all this, you never get the straight answer. So you just know it's a lie. It's just very complicated. Every time you ask a question, it's a different answer. So, and also the fact that they keep everything in the dark. They won't share anything with you. They're doing everything in the shadows. So, it's difficult because I feel that you're fighting something quite big here. It's not just a developer. It's more than that. There's lots going on. Lots of people with fingers in pies and things. So it's a big struggle uphill.
I hear you say that lots of people with different fingers in the pie, and I think that's some of the levels that we're talking about at Gibbs on Sunday when we had the roadside parliament. A businessman, a known businessman who owns supermarkets, Cartel, A1, etc., Emerald City. He came, took the mic. Well, the first thing he did when he got there, he wanted to be the first to speak. I thought it was because he had to go somewhere, and this is going into what Jayan is saying. I thought he wanted to be the first to speak. Okay, let me close Jayan's mic and see if that might be the issue. He wanted to be the first to speak, and I said fine, because I you try to be respectful. I came to you and I told you that this businessman wants to say something. But after he said it, then we understood why he wanted to be the first to say it. Because, like Jayan is saying, he wants to set the tone. There's something he wants to set the tone for the evening. And so he talked a lot about the people's property values are going to go up, and he's going to get a pool near. What I want to hear from you before I go back to Jayan, and I want Jayan to comment on that. So what are your thoughts about that in light of what we're talking about, manipulation and propaganda, etc.? Go ahead, Sunny.
Well, he had obviously been sent there by the developer as a mouthpiece, and he's obviously going to benefit from it personally. He actually admitted that he was going to get a pool at the end of his garden. So what else can I tell you? But you know, not everybody has money as their god. Obviously, he's very money orientated, and he said, "Oh, all our properties would go up in value." Well, a lot of us don't care. We didn't buy it as an investment. We just bought it to live our lives unfettered and unencumbered by interference from government or whoever else. So we just want to be left alone to live our lives in our relative peace. We don't want a mini city built in the middle of it, and we're not all going to get a nice pool at the end of our garden from the developer.
Yeah, quite interesting. So Jayan, you know, you were there, and you didn't know the backstory that here he came, and we didn't, you know, I'd never seen him at any roadside parliaments before, but he appeared and walked straight up to me and asked to speak first. You know, and then he comes, you know, and he says, "Listen, anybody seen the plans? I've seen the plans." And the plan is going to make it beautiful for you. Believe me when I tell you. But everybody who lives in a community, they're saying, "But you know, Mr. Businessman, we haven't seen the plans. You've seen it." But he's telling the people there, it's going to be beautiful for you. Your property values are going to go up. You know, and to the point where, Jan, you might not know, but the developer had said that we could not walk through Gibbs Gully. But then at the end, he took the phone and he was on the phone with the developer and convinced the developer. He said it's to your best interest that they go through the gully. You know, what do you, in your estimation, as somebody who is a counselor into psychology, what was this man trying to do at that event?
You hit the nail right on the head. He was trying to control the narrative. He was trying to set the tone for discussion. But he is smarter than me, because I went up after him and remember what I said. I said a lot of stuff. And after I said what I said, then that inspired something in Mark came up. He said what he said, right? And then other people came up, and I believe one lady referred directly to Mr. Proper Pork over there and said that he was, you know, he saw the, I think she said something about he saw the map or something, the plans,
yes,
with his drinking buddies. So she gave him some body blows, and he deserved that. He was standing up in the back with his legs shaking because the people came up afterwards, and everybody that spoke basically disagreed with what he initially said, right? So you're going to have people who are shills for the powers that shouldn't be, that are going to come to these meetings, or they're going to find themselves wherever discussions are going to be held, and they're going to do what they do. And you need to make sure that you have your people that will come in and change the focus back to where it should be, right? Because anybody that says, I feel sorry for anybody that says that governments anywhere have our best interests at heart, because they can only do what they do, right? They're not out there listening to the needs of every single individual person, nor are they really out in communities until it is time to get some votes. I was driving with somebody the other day, and we were out by Kensington, and they were asking how come this part was paved and this part was paved. And I said, well, very simply, they got votes over there and then got votes over there. Right. Simple.
You are something else. Let's listen a little bit more on about Ralph Thorne. Tonight we are talking to two, I would say, you know, they are I mean, just amazing people that I've just met in the last couple of weeks, and they are part of the opposition, Barbados, and they have been standing up for their communities. Jayan for Brighton and Sonny for Gibbs, you know, Gibbs Glade, Gibbs Gully. And, you know, tonight we're talking about breaking the pattern of fear. You know, how did they break that pattern of fear to begin to speak out? And we're seeing Ralph Thorne in the in Parliament, who would have broken from the pack, you know, broken from the pack of 30 and say, I am going to speak out. So let's listen a bit more of him, and then we're going to go back to Sonny and Jehan. Go ahead, Dave. Thank you.
abandon many of us. And are you going to desecrate a physical area and injure tourism in this country? And I don't want to say all for greed, but all for greed. All for greed, all for a deal, all for a transaction, all at the expense of the patrimony of this country. Is nothing sacred anymore? Is not the East Coast sacred anymore? Is not the area of the garrison sacred anymore? Or is it more important to put a geriatric hospital on a water table? Get vexed. Get vexed. The people vexed too. There is a stream, an underwater stream at Waterford on which that geriatric hospital is built. There is. So that when the citizens of this country protest, you will say that they're acting. You will accuse them of insincerity. You will say that their indignation is false. You will say that they're acting a part. Will you say that Holdong means nothing to them? Will you say that the East Coast means nothing to them? Will you say that the area of the garrison means nothing to them? Is that what this government's...
Dave, pause right there, please. Pause right there. And, you know, I'm hearing Jehan, I'm hearing you in my head, right? Because that is the thing that the propaganda, they're going to want to tell us, you know, what to think. Like don't worry about it. You're making a mountain out of a molehill about Brighton. You know, it's not really that sacred anymore. Even though we were just told that all these places have, became UNESCO sites, right? Heritage sites, but they're telling us, you know, that they're not. But let Sonny jump in here quickly, Sonny. Let's talk a little bit about this, Mr. Thorne. I don't know if you've ever heard him before, but he is the lone voice of opposition that we have in Parliament. How important do you think that is to Barbados, Sonny, to have this voice?
Well, it's vital because he is a lone voice in the wilderness, is he not? I mean, the man is a very brave gentleman to stand there, and obviously lots of energy and passion in there because he's just on his own. And how this ever came to be is a ridiculous situation. We need more people like Mr. Thorne to stand up for the people of Barbados, and people that aren't capable of being bought and paid for by outside interests. Not just developers, but other people that, you know, corporations that are interested in taking over countries. We're seeing it a lot around the world at the moment. So we really need people who are actually passionate about their nation, want to keep it for the people of the nation, and aren't ready just to sell out to the highest bidder.
Yes, important, very important. And you know, Jehan, as I said, as I was listening to him, I heard you in my head, and I because he was saying we know it's sacred, but you're telling us it's not sacred. You're telling us we know that that part of the whole town, you know, the structure there. The historians have told us that the doorway and parts of the police station is part of the heritage, you know, and site. It is a heritage site. But the Prime Minister has come out and said, no, it's not. Do you see that as part of the propaganda so that we will accept what they are planning to do?
Yeah, of course. It's the same tactics over and over. And I think that Ralph only has one strategy, which is to put the truth out there, and whatever is done with it is what is done with it, because of what I said about, you know, that Leonardo da Vinci quote at the beginning. There are those who see, right, and those who do not see. And I actually came out just in time to hear that section earlier today when he said it. I was just thinking to myself, Thorny boy, you're doing your best, but it is actually up to the public now to do something with that. And I would urge anybody that is listening to the budget or continues to follow the discussion on these things, don't just sit there and listen and get vexed or get afraid or feel anxious or whatever it is. Actually just pause and assess whether what you are hearing is grounded in reality, or if the information that you are getting is some type of manipulation that's coming from external forces to trick you and get you to look the other way. Because Ralph essentially, he came out and nothing that he said was false. He was like, look, hey, right here, look, right in front of you, right? And he asked all the relevant questions. I was actually quite impressed by the way that he delivered his speech and by everything that he said, because he talked about things that I didn't think that he would talk about.
Yeah, Sonny, I know we're coming to the end of this segment, but Sonny, we had some brave people who came out on Sunday to Gibbs, and I know you want to say thank you to them, and also to speak to them about why is it important to come out to the march on the 22nd. We can listen to what Mr. Thorne is saying tonight and all that we know, and we can choose to believe or not to believe, to do something or not to do something. So what I know you want to say thank you, so say thank you, and then talk to the people about why they need to come out on the 22nd.
Yes, well, I want to thank your team. I just love being amongst all your lovely people. They're such gentle, happy people, and yet they're strong. They're really strong, and they're amazing. So thank you to everybody that came to help, everybody that turned up, everybody that spoke, everybody that mucked in. Some of my people, I'm going to mention Peter specifically, because he was up and at them very early in the morning, putting up the signs. And he came to our rescue with a generator as well. So, everybody was great. And yes, thank you to everybody that came and everybody that donated as well. That was very, very helpful. The march on the 22nd is vital because, we are a growing movement now. We are becoming stronger every time we meet. And this is going to be in the middle of whole town. We start, I think it's at Folkestone at 10 o'clock on the 22nd in the morning. Mm-hmm. And we are marching down into whole town. And you know what? It will show people that don't know about this, both Barbadians and also tourists, what the actual situation is. And people come to Barbados every single year. They love the country. They come for their holidays. They save hard, they work hard, and they come to enjoy it. And they need to know what's under threat here and what's at stake. And I think it's important that maybe that, these people that are on holiday here will share on social media what's going on, and the word will get out around the world, and that people in a wider field will make their voices heard, not just here in Barbados, but the people that love it too, who live elsewhere and come on holiday here.
Yes. Dave, if Dave could look in your WhatsApp, and you will see a poster, and if you could put it up for us. Jehan, you talk about those who hear, and it's almost they didn't hear. We have a march coming up, and on the 22nd, the march is, we're putting all of these concerns of this overdevelopment. We are going to be talking about Brighton, where you're from. We're talking about Gibbs, where Sonny's from, whole town. We're looking at the garrison. Right now, I was told that they're going to remove the children at the Graydon Sealy Secondary School and put them somewhere else because they've got to put a hotel in that spot. All of the coast, it's literally all of the coast that is being sold and being given over to developers, all of the coast. And we hear of all of these things that's happening. We have this march coming up on the 22nd. It's called a Love March. And so we're Brighton, Bay Street, East Coast, Whole Town, Gibbs Gully, Dover, right? Garrison, Oystins. I learned, I didn't even know about Oystins. Don told us about Oystins. And then I heard the leader of the opposition talking about Oystins. How do you overcome your fear, Jehan, to come to something like this? Because there are people who want to come, they're so afraid.
Well, like I said, you can't give in to those self-sabotaging thoughts that will be like, oh, well, somebody else will go and represent. You have to go and do it. You might be afraid, but you have to realize that they can't victimize all of us all at once, They don't even know us on a personal level enough to victimize everybody. That's the reality. So notice what you feel about certain things and realize that that fear is not real. That fear doesn't have any roots in facts whatsoever, and just come out and support. Because a lot of people will say things like, oh, well, it's not happening in my backyard, so it doesn't affect me. Those are self-justifications that people use to stay in place and not have to actually say or do anything. But the time is gone for all of that. It is that kind of thinking that has done us in. So you have to, it's like I was telling you, you have to leverage your values, because the very frightening thing that I told you about is that whenever you talk to the average person, they don't know what their top 5 values are. And even when they do tell you what their values are, they don't list integrity as the top 3. And that's problematic. And that is a global phenomenon. I mean, it is scary. So you have to also realize that there's strength in numbers, and you might be afraid, but just come out. We are here and we will support you as well. We are strong enough. We will prop you up until you get your sea legs and you can stand on your own. It's about building strong, authentic communities. It is not so much about making noise. A community in itself is what these kinds of tyrants, so to speak, fear the most. Because, like I said, it is the few versus the many. And we are the many, right? So, get all your friends, figure out what activities you want to engage in. Maybe you want to come to the march and then you go to the beach or something. Add something in there that will make it fun for you, so that you have a reason to overcome any fears. But it's about creating community and having an open dialogue and being creative and fostering personal empowerment among more people. Because ultimately, if we don't stand up now, they're going to take what little we have left from us. Like you were saying, tourists do not want to come to Barbados to see a bunch of concrete. They do not. They're building on the things that tourists are paying good money to see. Make sense. When you build on it, you cannot build on it again. You cannot sell it twice. And they're looking at it like, oh, this is the gift that keeps on giving. I said that on Sunday, but it is not given to anybody except for the ones that implement it, except for the ones that build it and maintain it. It's not given to us. Any money that they get from that, they can lick that out in short order, doing something else, borrowing money from somewhere else. All that got to get paid back. So when you sell it off, and you kill off the birds and the monkeys and the fish and the turtles, then what? I ain't get vexed yet, Marcia. You don't want to see that.
Listen, oh my God. And this is why, I hear them, I hear people talk, Sonny, that Bajans are so passive and all of that. And I meet somebody like Jehan and I hear Mr. Thorne and I see Crystal Haynes. I mean, when Dr. Crystal Haynes in that Senate and spoke up in such a way in that Senate, I mean, that's not passivity. Passivity will cause you to sit down, but she got up knowing very well, Dr. Crystal Haynes, that they could have taken her job, and which they did. But my girl, she stood on business. She decided, no, I can't. That was that's an Esther moment. That's an Esther moment, I call it. Where she I think she must be somebody of faith to decide to stand up like that. So let me ask you guys, just as we close this segment, Jehan and Sunny. I'll start first with Sunny. What's your final word that you want to say to people about breaking out of this fear? What you want to say to Barbadians about standing up as Crystal Haynes did, standing up like Mr. Thorne is doing, standing up like what you are doing, Sunny, and what Jehan is doing. What is the final word that you both want to say to Barbadians tonight?
Well, you know, the most dangerous people are the ones that have nothing left to lose. So if they think they're going to take everything from us, they better watch out, because they're not going to take everything from us. We're going to absolutely stand our ground and keep Barbados as lovely as it is, and we're not going to let them take that away from us.
Excellent, excellent. Jehan?
We need to advocate for transparency in government, and we need to be able to have more transparency in all of the corporate action that is being taken on so-called our behalf. I want to say one more thing on behalf of the people out there. When you look at the average person on the street that is barely trying to make it, trying to get by, not day by day, hour by hour, and you look at the youths on the street, you see all of the crime that is happening, and they're saying, well, I don't know why that's happening, right? But then they do things to leave these average people in a position of defenselessness, helplessness, directionlessness. And then they say, oh, we didn't do that. That's not our problem. We'll just put together a peace program for the youth. That'll fix it. We'll just do this other asinine thing over here, and that will fix it. And nothing ever changes. And people have to develop emotional awareness. As Bajans, we are not passive people, but what we tend to do is we get angry and we take our frustration out on everybody else. Look at the people that slap the children and stuff in public and say, use our whole this and use our whole that. I would give you something to cry for, all that kind of nonsense that is in the public domain that gets mislabeled as, I guess, culture. That is not who Barbados is. That is a manifestation of people's unmet needs. And the children are suffering. So when you see an uptake in crime and homelessness and bad behavior in schools and all of that, and then those people become adults who perpetuate a cycle, it is only two things that need to be fixed. Everybody's sense of personal accountability for themselves, number one, and they need to be taught that from school days. And then personal accountability and transparency within the government, because they're the ones that are supposed to be doing stuff in our interest according to them. And then they create a situation that seems like it cannot be fixed, like what I have described. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm speaking as a person that does a hard job because I care about people. And it is the same thing wherever you go. Barbados can do better. The people of Barbados feel like they don't have a leg to stand on because the seat has been taken from underneath them, right?
Yes. Well, listen, we have to have you back, Jayan, because this is, it's been so inspirational, Sonny, not just here, but his speech at Gibbs. I mean, it was just amazing, very inspirational. And I think as a Barbadian, you have your thumb on what is really, really going on. So we really need to have you back. Gibbs, I'm calling you Gibbs, Sonny. Thank you so much for being on as well. And I'm hoping that coming closer to the time for the march, that you guys will be able to come back on again. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. Sonny, Darren Gibbs, it was wonderful. And thank you so much again for allowing us to be part of what is happening there at Gibbs. We are
pleasure, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for all the support you've given us. Really grateful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you all so very much. And Jan, I think we need you back on to help us get our heads right. Get the mind right. Thank you. God bless you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Bye-bye. Yeah, wow. My it's not allowing me. Okay. Yeah. Okay, having some technical challenges there tonight. Miss McLean, by mistake, we put you right on so
That's
quickly.
all right. That's all right. Let me see. I fix myself.
You're fixing yourself. Yeah. Yeah, we're having some technical. That's a
Yeah, I was listening. I was listening intently. That's some very important information the young man shared. It's, I think it's the kind of information people need to listen to as they reflect on who they are as people, who, as individuals, as members of families, as citizens participating in, what really happens in
Mhm,
in their lives,
mhm, mhm.
and because too often people are afraid. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of talk about fear in this country. Today, you would have seen people not wanting, I mean, generally people may not want to go on camera. They're afraid.
Mhm.
It's a small society, but also, you're talking to a politician or a group of politicians, and, heaven forbid if certain people see these images, these videos or whatever. But I think I'm happy when I hear young people like that who have taken, but that's part of his professional training and background and experience and work. But I really am happy as he really explained to some people, people can use what he said to look at themselves, essentially say,
Mhm.
am I displaying characteristics similar to what he said? How do I move from a position of fear? Good
Yes.
to see you too, V Hoy. I think that's who it was who was saying hello.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you, but I have a little video. I was out with the mic today, and
Yes.
Mike on the move, Mike on the move. We were there, and
Serious lady.
yeah, I went back down to to the Parliament building today, and I want to show the people Mr. Thorne after speaking to for 11 and a
10,
half hours.
10 hours, 11 and a half. An hour was for supper.
Ah, okay, for 10 and a half hours. Okay.
Yeah, 10
Yeah,
hours.
almost 11 hours, 10 and a half hours, that he spoke between yesterday and this morning. And so we want to just show a little bit of what he looks like. So Dave, if we could go straight to that one, with Mr. Thorne, me interviewing Mr. Thorne as soon as he came down the steps. I saw him and I asked the police, I said, can I go in? And the police, thank you, Mr. Policeman, for allowing me to go in. So I'm just going to show people what Mr. Thorne looked like and what he had to say after 10 and a half hours. I have 11 and a half, but it's 10 and a half hours, when of him being in the Parliament. Right? So Dave, we have that ready? Not yet? In the meantime, I'm going to ask you guys to share, to like, and share. So here we go. This is Mike on the Move. Go ahead, Dave.
No, it's not live. It's not live. I just want to say thank you on behalf of the people of Barbados.
My pleasure.
We have representation. We heard you echo our voices and our sentiments and our cries.
Yes.
And some of us laughed with you, we cried with you, we felt it, we were all in it. I tell you, people were just locked on
Thank you.
and watching. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much, Marcy.
Are you tired?
The adrenaline. I have adrenaline.
Yeah.
But I want to, Marcia, thank you, because before I was opposition, you were the opposition in this country. You started a TV program and people caught on to it, and you were the only voice of protest. Well, there were other voices of protest, but yours was the major voice of protest in this country. And you have never, the party has never tried to compromise you. The Democratic Labour Party has never tried to compromise you. We accept and appreciate your right to an independent view, to have an independent voice. And I want to tell you that we really enjoy working with you as a political entity, not interrupting your work, not compromising your work, but when we can complementing your work, because your voice is as much an opposition voice as our voice. And it is on that basis that we have joined our efforts. So I seize this opportunity to thank you. even before the Democratic Labour Party became.
But let me just hasten to say
now.
that we have an amazing team, which you know,
Yes.
of that team
Yes.
comprised of former senators, former ministers, and you know they've done a lot of research and have just a heart for the people,
Yes.
and they present to the people. So kudos to the entire team.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so now, what you need some rest, some food.
Yeah, food. Food. I have good company.
Yes, I could see that. I could see that you had people here with you.
Yes.
So you spoke for, is it 11 hours?
11, 10 and a half, 11.
10 and a half, 11 hours. I mean, we are so grateful. Thank you so very, very much. I had to come. I came from St. Philip down here just to be able to say thank you.
Thank you. I'm grateful to God, Marcia.
Yes.
Because we do nothing unless we do it under God.
Yes.
If it is anything that I want to do in relation to the Democratic Labour Party, it's to establish the Democratic Labour Party as a new moral paradigm. Teaching the people of this country that we are not only a legal entity or a political entity, but that we see ourselves as a moral entity, as having moral responsibilities, as maintaining a certain rectitude in our public life, because we want to come to public life, and we want to come to public life giving assurance to the public that we are people of integrity. And that's why we use the slogan, honest voices for the people. That is saying two things, that we are honest, that our voices are honest, and that we are for the people. Because we recognize that you cannot reach the broad destination of justice unless you travel the road of truth. And truth is spoken honestly.
Yes.
If you don't speak honestly, you don't speak the truth.
Yes.
So that is how we want to establish the Democratic Labour Party. And it is not a new thing. This party was born as a moral enterprise. This party, when it was born, it pursued political objectives that were in keeping with the interests, that were in keeping with the interests of the people, and that is a moral mandate. Welcome, Amoy. You know,
wow, and you had your team, with you, and
that is one of the refreshing aspects to my presence here. I felt so happy yesterday when I saw Neil and Simon and Amoy. It gives you a sense of comfort. It makes you look. You know my team. Alone but not lonely. And I knew yesterday and today again that I am not.
Yes, it was good to see them walking up the steps with you.
Me
yes.
They energized me again today.
But even the material that you covered today, yesterday and today, as I interviewed some of the spokespersons and those candidates, you know, even prospective candidates, they said, listen, what he's saying there is what we're saying. You know, he is just bearing our voices because we've come together as a team.
Yes, we worked as a team, Marcia. This was not an individual exercise. We met on Saturday, we met on the weekend, and we brainstormed, we exchanged ideas, so that what you hear from me, it is not me, it is team. We focus on theme. And you would have heard my theme during this exercise, that this government, I quoted Plato, show me a democracy and I'll show you a tyranny.
Yes.
And we run counter to that.
Yes.
We are not about tyrannical government. We are not about despotic government. We are about democratic government. Government that is populated and run by people who work together as a team. No one is omniscient.
Yes.
This government, one of the major and very obvious faults in this government is that the ministers have no power. And they don't want to say it publicly, but the public is seeing it.
Yes.
And even at that level, they're not coming clean with the people of Barbados.
Yes.
They're not.
Yes. Well, you know, I mean, you were speaking for 11 hours. I mean, we had a little break. So I know I could see that, but I want to release you so you could get your lunch and so on. But let me just talk to this young gentleman here really, really quickly. Is this your first time in Parliament?
Yes, this is my first time in Parliament with the Democratic Labour Party.
Yes.
And it was indeed a good time.
Yes. What made it so good for you?
The response from the leader of the opposition, and particularly the Democratic Labour Party. He addressed the issues really well, and we have work to do, and we will continue to do the work.
Yes, wonderful. I can see that you're very pleased. And this lovely lady here, Miss Amoy, am I saying that right?
Yes, Amoy.
Gildenborn.
Okay, Gildenborn.
I have the same sentiments as my
It's your first time?
Yes, it is also my first time.
Yes.
And I'm very pleased.
I was kind of excited to be here yesterday and to hear the leader of the opposition.
And you were here again this morning?
Yes, yes.
You got here early?
We are committed.
Yes.
We are committed.
I
And
love that. I love that.
We need to give our comrades some support.
Yes.
And, we need to make change for this country for the better. And I believe that under Mr. Thorne, that change is
going to happen. Yes. Well, thank you all so much. Go and get something to eat, no? It's okay. All right.
I thank them for the sacrifice because they're all three lawyers.
Yes.
So
Oh, right. Look at that.
Yeah,
Look at that. These are three lawyers here to be here. Oh, wow. Yes, including. All right. Thank you, guys. God bless you. Bye-bye. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Oh wow, yeah, thank you, Dave. You could pause it there, but I want to get you in here, former Senator Maxine McLean and former Minister. You should see how she dress up today, shoes match and everything. But before we do that, I want to say that that compliment that Mr. Thorne gave, it's not just to the panelists and the host, myself and Dr. Ferdinand, but it's to you. The Marcia Week show, it's you. The loyal opposition, it's you. It's to Sharon Kane who went to be in the gallery. Did you know that there were people who went in the gallery, just regular citizens, and they packed out that place last night? It's to them. It's to you who log on every night. It's you that he's thanking. Don't put anybody on here on a pedestal. It's not about me, Miss McLean, Mr. Franklin, whomever it is. We recognize that it's you, the people. You make up the loyal opposition. You make up the Marcia Week show. And we all together say thank you. Now, Miss McLean, oh my goodness.
These are my notes from his presentation. I actually spent the entire time. I stayed, and I couldn't imagine he would have doubled the time from last year. But we had breaks in between, and then of course, I guess the other members of parliament needed a break, and it was good too because I used to teach a 3-hour class, but standing for in excess of 5 hours and then coming back, to do that. But for me, I have grown to appreciate the sincerity of Mr. Thorne. And I'll share this one. He probably may not like me doing this, but yesterday he was supported by 2 of his brothers. Dave, who stayed he was there this morning, and his brother, Dr. Thorne, Jerry, some of you would know him. And so as we were coming in, I saw Jerry and I said hi and I gave him a hug because he's actually one of my doctors. And then there was a little exchange, and then Ralph said, well, I can't kiss you, but I said, come, let me give you a kiss. And I saw him kiss him on his cheek. And I thought that was, because I know that, I know members of the family. I went to school with one of his sisters. I worked with his other sister, and, but it was just such a nice kind of family and human touch that really, to use the word twice, it touched my heart to see that here you have siblings who sacrificed the time. He mentioned the 3 young attorneys, those 3 attorneys there who would have spent quite a bit of time in yesterday and today when they could in fact have been out there making money. And yes, they have political interests and ambitions, but at the same time, they could sit in the office and work and listen. So I think it was good to have the support, because I don't know if people, members of our audience, the loyal opposition, really appreciate what it is to stand in Parliament as the lone individual, not only the lone voice, but the lone person speaking and critiquing government's policy. I listened this afternoon I turned on to see what was happening, and it so happened when I turned on, the Prime Minister was starting her speech. And I remember last year, the hostility that was spewed. And I want to share something. I'm going to look for the clip, but I'm going to raise it here because I have some concerns. members of parliament and members of the Senate have parliamentary privilege. They have they're protected. What they say, you know, they cannot be sued and whatever the case may be. And you were aware that we were after the presentation, Mr. Thorne did a walkabout, I would say, went into Swan Street and so on.
Which we're gonna don't tell them yet.
No. While we were walking, I'm just talking about what happened.
Yeah, because I'm gonna show them. Yeah.
Yeah, but somebody called to say that, and I will call his name, the Minister of Agriculture in Darwin was doing something that if he stepped outside in the yard of Parliament or on the high street or whatever and repeated it, he probably could have been sued for defamation. In fact, I spoke to somebody who's trained in law, not a practicing lawyer, and we were discussing the situation where you seek to vilify the Mrs. Amoy Gildenborn is the shadow spokesperson or shadow minister, if you want to call it shadow spokesperson for agriculture. Okay?
Yeah.
And what you are going to do as Minister of Agriculture, rather than speak to the critiques and the issues put on the table about agriculture in several debates, certainly including the estimates and directly in the reply to the budget, you're going to attack a woman.
Oh, really? What did he attack her and said?
Well, he was, I want to find the clip first. But he essentially, it was, I want to find it because somebody sent it to me. But in essence, he was accusing her of theft. Right? Now, let me go to the extreme of the scenario. Suppose that were the case. He, as a member of parliament, as a minister, MP, should not do that. That would be the police's job. You're compromising the work of the police. Now, if there were something, and that's why I say I really want to hear the full text of what he said, because I heard it from more than one person. It is on Instagram somewhere. I am not, okay, Judith Ann Clark mentioned it. She said she was shocked. I generally don't get most Instagram things sent to me opened or whatever. I signed up some time ago, but those things take up too much of my time on my storage on my phone and all of these things. But to do that, because once it's out there, Instagram is all over the world. You don't do that. If that is the extent, if that's the law to which she's gonna, well, she said to use the word pretty larceny. Now when you're gonna do that, and I've heard him more than once, and this was the kind of behavior. But I would like the Minister of Agriculture to tell us, for example, how much is the cost of these 20 farms that he's bringing, and whether that's the best use of taxpayers' money, because that's something he provided in the budget. Let's talk about that. Show us how it will benefit the farmers by showing us the cost of it, the operating cost, the kind of produce you can grow, and whether in the context of energy costs in Barbados, that produce will generate enough to make that person not, make a profit. Let me say it that way. But it hurts my heart that you sat. Well, I don't know if he was listening. He was present some of the time. I was there all the time, but I don't think he was there present all the time. But if you were listening to the issues at some point, and in my notes, I can tell you where in the conversation Mr. Thorne spoke about agriculture, and what he said about agriculture, because I made notes of all these things. Economic diversification, page 10 of my 20-something page notes, talked about what he said, He says agriculture seems indifferent, and he went on to speak about the issue of food security or the promises of food security. And so go and respond to the leader of the opposition. But what do? And that was very early, because it was soon after they returned to Parliament to continue the debate that he launched in that attack, And that's sad, because if that's all he's worth, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm asking Dave, and you're so correct, because, and this is the thing, we are choosing not to be gaslit.
Yes.
You understand? And that's why I love that young man, Jehan. He was speaking some truth tonight, I tell you. And we are listening. We are developing critical thinking. We listen, okay? We are being educated. That's why people love this show. You're being educated. This is not about propaganda. we're tearing off the covers and letting you see it, and then you can determine for yourself what you're going to do. And I mean, we're just happy that Mr. Thorne could take almost 11 hours of his time to stand up to bring our concerns. When you take an issue like there's so many, is where to start from, but you know, the other night, Mr. Adrian Hines, you know, he came on and he talked about the Constitution, and he talked about the Westminster system. He talked about the whole thing about us being a republic, you know, without a constitution and what that means, etc. And then when you hear the leader of the opposition, you know, inside Parliament speaking of it, those that heard it on the show, they're able to understand a little better. You know what I mean? And that is the kind of thing. So I'm actually seeing if Dave can find that section of it, and if anybody can tell me where, you know, give us you know, the section where he talks about Constitution. I did not get enough time to prepare because I was on the street trying to get to get all of this for you. You know, but
I will run through my notes and see how far into it if I can find it for you, and I'll give you a sense.
Yes, Square 4, the public gallery. People just came and they went up. I was so surprised. Nobody forced them to go. They went and signed up their names and they went up to hear Mr. Thorne. You know, Dave, is it? I'm not sure if we can hear. See any more of that footage, the mic on the move, while you're looking for the other section where Mr. Thorne, he had finished, you know, guys, almost 11 hours. He had something to eat and then he hit the streets. I was there. I saw it and recorded it. I could not believe it. I'm like, where is this man getting this energy from? Where is he getting? And the people were so happy to see him. And I don't know if we're able to do that, where we show the rest of that last video that we watched just a while ago. Let's see if we can see that. Yes, go ahead, Dave. Go ahead. Thank you. That's Thorne going through Bridgetown.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. You enjoyed it? Did you enjoy that? Yeah, you watched it?
What he's doing.
You're glad for what he's doing?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
It's good for Barbados.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
wonderful. How about you, sir? Did you?
I got that party. It blessed me.
Yeah.
I blessed him.
Yeah. You like what what he's doing?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Very good.
And I'm glad that we're getting somewhere with him.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Very good.
Very much.
Yes. Let me run and catch up with the rest. That's Mr. Thorne, Ralph Thorne. Oh. Oh, let's see the group ahead of me. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Happy birthday. Oh Lord. You want to know about you there? Yes, please. To you too.
Yeah.
Oh my, great face. Okay, no problem.
Did you hear the speech? Did you hear the speech? Did you hear his budget response speech?
Last night I dropped asleep.
Okay, you dropped asleep, but you heard it.
So I ain't really heard.
Okay.
You understand? But it's always follow up and
you follow up, yes, yes. But it's how do you feel about what he's doing in Parliament?
Wait, no, I don't want to talk about politics.
You don't want to.
I'm talking about golf first.
All right, all right, all right, all right. Beautiful.
good fruits and vegetables there in the market. That's
I can't walk. Yeah, yeah, come here, walk there. Pineapple, I might more boss. I don't wait for the government for nothing. Thank you. Have a good day, honey. Yes.
What's up? Huh? For the good? Have a blessing there here?
Yeah.
All right, man.
I'm sorry.
Not hopefully. She's on. Not hopefully.
You need to beat her this time.
Hopefully. She's going to listen.
You listen to this play?
I hear some.
You look like Fran.
Yeah, because everything will be good, man.
sorry. So listen, you want them out?
Of course.
Why?
This isn't good, man. Look at them. They're the city.
Yes.
Yeah. You ain't getting the progress going on here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want a change?
It's time. It's about time.
It's about time. Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Long overdue.
Long overdue?
Long
Why
overdue.
you say long overdue?
Hello.
She has her time. Everybody got the time.
Yes.
She have her time.
Right. So it's time to move
It's time to
on.
move on. Time to
Okay.
give some boys a chance, to do something.
Right. Okay, that's
Right.
lovely.
Right.
All
Give it a
right.
watch, yeah.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Mr. Thorne and the president, and they're walking through town and greeting people. And people are very receptive, actually. Very receptive to them.
The camera up there. You remember? Oh, yeah. The camera up there. You know, he's probably Ralph, man. He's probably a good man. You know, oh, yeah. No, I really, I think, Miss Mars here, good morning after. I think, village. You know, company meeting. How long ago that? 4 years, like, yeah. Oh, yeah. Remember, sir? Don't keep it going, John. Yeah. Maxine McLean, you got the fear on you.
Maxine McLean.
Your mother or your father?
Your mother? What's her name?
Doreen Shields.
Come from?
Brother.
Oh, Brother Hill. I hope you keep them for good. Which all things you want me to do. That's very good. Mother's love, a mother's love.
What a wonderful woman. Don't give up. No money small crowd. It's larger than that. Right, Marcy?
All right, my dear. Have a good one.
Which one is more recorded? That's good.
Take care.
Look, there's a lady over here.
We understand.
You look so pretty. Look how you look pretty. Look at your pose.
Where's Simon? That was bossy.
One love. Use the man that want empower though.
Sure.
In office, not power.
They want empower.
Why you want him in power? Why you want him in power?
Because he's the man, he can make the correct choices.
Yes.
The person that we got here right now, they doing the things that she said she's doing, that she's supposed to do, and she's doing it. We can see it. We the poor people over here, and we can see it.
Yeah.
We need things to be done. Right now, all we're here struggling on the street. Things getting harder and harder. That's why you see a lot of people thieving.
Oh.
And killing cause things getting hard. The way that she go out this government, things getting too hard, man.
Too hard for you all.
Yeah, no, that's true. I done a good job when you need a bigger job.
Yeah, but you're gonna get $300. Everybody's gonna get.
My voice, not me.
Not you, okay.
Hey, Mr. Ford.
How are you doing?
Yeah.
I just want to get your thoughts on the
Response was always good. He just always know what he's saying. He just bring facts. See? So when he brings facts, let's get to the other people. So they always try to do what they're going to do to shut you up and to change it from what he's speaking about to something else. These things I see all the time, man. Big brother, keep on doing what you're supposed to do here. Not all the time here. We are supporting you.
Okay.
I'm going to get out here again.
We are supporting you, big brother. For real. Yeah. Yeah. All up here?
What's your name?
What's your name?
My name is Andre.
Hello, how you doing?
Fine.
From Jamaica?
Yes, I'm from
Yes, and you listen to the budget response speech?
Not recent because I had to work.
Okay.
So not recent, but
Okay.
I've been hearing a little here and there from my people.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts about Mr. Thorne, Ralph Thorne?
Who is he?
In the over there.
Oh,
Yellow. Okay, all right. Let me see this here.
Everybody,
You know Dale?
Long time.
Yeah.
Good friend.
So you're gonna support him? You're gonna be supporting Dale?
Definitely the toy price.
That's where I know you're playing.
You are on the video too? Yeah. So you're working with Mike Lander?
For sure. Always.
Good. What's your name?
Trey Lashley.
Trey Lashley.
Right,
Mike, can I get that for
I do with my head, boy. Interact together for no one.
Lord, God, this is the man here. This is the boss. This is the big man. I want to hear about you. But you know me. Yeah, for sure. Let me take you, Pepper. What you want me to say?
Tell me only the good things.
What did you? This is man. Thank you. When you walk out, come here with me.
Just walking down the road, meet people, them in there, passing me, so
but that's only like that's only like and that's only and tell she's going to grab the leader because she's going to the shepherd. Are you here now?
The shepherd is Jesus. All of us are
My respect, man, respect.
Yeah, there's a man behind you. I think he wants it.
Public staff. How you good, man? Good to see you, man. You're such Joseph, man. Huh? No, this is the Black Rock, man. Now, you know you want to take me years ago to gun to charges, you know. Really? I mean, get me off with a couple gun to charge. You're missing a long time ago. What's your name again? My name is Greg. You call me Lion King.
Lion King. Well, Lion King, you're free.
Yeah,
You're free.
Yeah, man. You hope that things work out, man. Things get better, you know. You can work hard. You can work hard. Yeah, man. That is good, man. We want to see good vibes, you know. Get people living good, man. And get, you know, get people living good and get people out of all this pressure and thing, man. You know. All these kind of things, man, and make people nice again, man. Yes. That Barbados, it was in the 70s and the 60s, they were how Barra then used to run things, you know, and you know that kind of way, you know, and make things nice, man, and let people live and you know, and we can teach the young people, right? Cause teach the young people.
Give me a thought on Mr. Thorne and how you thought he performed during the budget.
Well, I thought he performed pretty well because you know what I'm saying, backing and helping people to get things better, cut down on, you know, on the economy. And make things, you know, that much more that people can live, man. But the cost of living real high in Barbados, and a lot of people suffering, a lot of people suffering right now in this time, you know, man. And we don't need that, you know. We need to come together and live with the people. We want people live in love and unity, so that things could be good and that we can live the way we really supposed to be living. Yeah. Because right now, the material world developed, I find that the people get away from the real of living and you understand and get lost in that world, and we need to bring back this love and this unity so that things could be right and that we could be as one people and live and let Jah smile upon us.
Yes. Yeah. All right, Greg.
Yes, man, my brother. Take
All I want to do is bless you, Mr. Thorne. A little prayer.
Thank you.
Say a prayer for the morning.
All morning.
Lord, I ask you to bless this man and guide him. Put the garden in to the right company.
Good.
Amen.
What's the name?
Vaccine from the point.
You got a real old-fashioned name. Vaccine.
Yeah.
If you were young, you would be named Shakwani.
I'll be marked with the young.
Pause it, Dave. They pause it. Did she just say she would marry to Mr. Thorne?
She said she would be married to Mr. Thorne if she was young.
She said if she was young. Dave, carry it back. You gotta wheel and come again. You gotta go. Love it. Dave, at the start of hers, yes. This woman, I tell you, she love Mr. Thorne and she pray for him too, you know. So she pray for him.
All I want to do is bless you, Mr. Thorne. A little prayer.
Thank you.
Say a prayer for the morning.
All morning.
Lord, I ask you to bless this man and guide him. Put the garden in to the right company.
Good.
Amen.
What's the name?
Vaccine from the point.
You got a real old-fashioned name. Vaccine.
Yeah.
If you were young, you would be named Shakwani.
I'll be marked with the young.
Keep going there. That is just so funny. That is so funny. That is just beautiful. It's so natural. Yeah.
You should say something.
Yes.
Yeah, you really feel it. I see the tears. Yeah, you know him.
Hey, pause there, Dave. Pause, Dave. Do you know this gentleman was actually, his eyes, if he wasn't outside, the tears would come down. He was so proud of Mr. Thorne. And it seemed like they went to school together. and all he kept saying, this is a good man, this is a good man. And he was naturally just, tears came in this big Rastaman eyes. You saw it, Miss McLean, that he was crying?
I remember, and somebody mentioned it as well.
Why do you think he was crying, Miss McLean?
No, I think it's, you talk about tears of joy. Is pride. It probably, he would have probably been flooded with memories, which would have made him emotional, because, you know, a lot of people hear politicians talk about growing up in humble circumstances and all of these, and for him, he is watching one of his contemporaries who has succeeded and who is out there championing his cause, you know. And so that's really tears of joy. It's an overwhelming feeling of pride, and, you know, and ironically, you say about happiness, you know, and he is, I must say this, Marcia, and V, how is saying it, I have worked with, I've known him for years. Until last year, we never really interacted a lot in this kind of environment. But I have seen a good human being. And I would say this, I have been in Parliament. I was there last year. I was there for the budget. I was there for the estimates. And I can tell you, on one of those occasions, having spoken, he came to me and he said to me, I have not been too harsh, have I? I said, no. You have a job to do. You don't get up there maligning anybody. You are speaking on issues, you know, and unlike the example that I cited today, which I still find distressing, you may have to be highly critical. And again, if you hear what he says in terms of his role as a leader of the opposition, but his concern is, I don't want to hurt people's feelings, but that, you know, if I put it very simply. And basically, you see, the other important thing that, and Sharon is correct, or Sharon, whichever way you pronounce it. I hope I get it right, Miss Kane. But in working with him, he talked about a team, and that was not just a set of buzzwords or saying the right thing. Last year and this year, I saw how we came together, a group of us, to work, to discuss, and all of that. But what I find truly amazing, nobody gives him a script, you know. We discuss issues, perspectives. I mean, let's say from my perspective as a cabinet minister, I have some understanding of some general issues, and then the portfolio that I held and so on. But we discuss these things. And he goes away and sorts it out, you know, in a very comprehensive way, because in fact, that is why if we look at the budget and the 10 plus hours that he spoke, some people query that, but we can actually dissect the content of that later. But the important thing is to recognize you have one voice speaking on the entire budget of how many pages. And I remember, I heard the Prime Minister suggest that he didn't touch on the budget, but I can go here and tell you where he referred to pages of the budget and the specific things that he mentioned in relation to that. He would say on page something, he would have identified issues relating to foreign affairs, you know, housing, and so on. So when I heard that, I just smiled. But then again, while she was present some of the time, she was not there the entire time, but that doesn't mean that she wasn't listening. But I can tell you, and I was just looking through my notes here to tell you, because as I told you, I've written down a lot of things here, and he really covered a whole set of things, you know, and I really am amazed. As a person who taught for a 3-hour class, I was amazed that he could stand and page 23, reserve. He talked about the reserves. Page 30, where they talked about building resilience, just so people didn't think I was making. Page 37, where they talked about national insurance. You know, page 78, where they touched on crime. Page 71, reporting to Parliament. Page 144, additional supplementary to fuel economic growth, was something that the minister in finance mentioned. So I think as people listen, what he was able to do was to touch on things that matter to the people. You heard people talking about the difficulty, of life, cost of living, joblessness, because as he was talking on camera and some people were sharing information, you
Yeah.
know. The interesting thing, I just don't move that picture.
Yes.
I heard the Prime Minister today say that somebody, obviously she got reports on this, that somebody said he looked like Thorne'S short. The person was actually talking about the gentleman behind the two ladies there.
Yes,
When they
the,
made
the
that
gentleman
reference,
in the gentleman
Yes,
in the light blue
yes,
shirt.
Cavill, and
But
so what?
that's Miss Piggy for you. They're going to use their bully tactics, and
It's
that's Miss
silly.
Piggy. Yeah?
I call it silly Miss Piggy then, because
Silly
what's the
Miss
point?
Piggy. Silly Miss Piggy.
How but and that's why
Yeah.
I said cut to the chase and deal with these substantive
Yeah.
issues, not try
Yeah,
to
silly
ridicule.
mistake.
It's just
Foolish.
silly.
They're talking about foolishness. Talk about, like, right now, what we're gonna do. We're gonna get back to this because this is a lot of fun, as you can tell. So we're gonna break it a little bit, okay? And then we're gonna go into where Mr. Thorne is speaking about the Constitution. Dave, thank you so much for doing a great job. Can we just give Dave a little hand? Because it's not easy. I am throwing things at him just not to. We got home and
And
said,
he's
Dave, we're
grabbing
gonna have
it,
to do
getting
this.
it.
No, 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 no. And he leaves work, Miss McLean, and Dave is sitting there. He's so much part. He's a big part of what you see happening here. Trust me. He is.
I had to remind people today when they saw you. I said nobody pays Dave and Marcia to do this. They have no sponsors. Think of the hours if she were doing things where she was going to charge people. If you were doing somebody's finances or whatever.
Yes.
And people
Yes.
need to appreciate the significant contribution that you and Dave are making. Michelle, I agree with you. Dave, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, yes. And Adrian is asking a great question. Did any of them say anything about the Constitution? These are real matters. And she's going to talk about somebody saying that Ralph looks like Frondel, which is a complete lie. It didn't even
And
happen.
it wasn't him that they were
It wasn't
talking
even
about.
him, silly Miss Piggy. Silly Miss Piggy. You wasn't even him. You just saw. That's how they Miss Piggy was, with the little Kermit the Frog trying to beat them up all the time. But let me tell you, you got some beating in your skin today. But anyway, Dave, go ahead to the Constitution and let's look at that. Because that's something that we're going to discuss on the show. Mr. Hines is getting ready. He sent me his PowerPoint already, so we're going to break this down. Go ahead, Dave, please. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, I see Mr. Lewis has joined us as well.
Yes.
I will add him soon. Dave, right. It's coming up. While it's coming, Mr. Lewis, good night, sir.
Good night, good night, good night.
Good night to
I'm
you,
enjoying the show too, but I hear backing up with the laugh, man. I mean, yeah, man, I just love that interaction. Good night to the loyal opposition. I'm happy I forgot that, but it was so wonderful to see Mr. Thorne getting down to earth, the real grassroots style in Swan Street. You couldn't want a better taste, but carry on with the show. I'm enjoying it. Movie style, movie style.
Yes, yes. And were you able to listen to any parts of the response?
I listened to quite a lot of it, but I'm still condensing. But one that really resonates with me quite a lot, after the $100,000 for cricket, what next? That has resonated with me a lot because we're dealing with the youth of this country. We're dealing with the future of this country, the youth of Barbados. After that $100,000, what? As a young boy coming up, I love football. I love cricket. I love to run. Running is my gift. I love that. Especially distance running. But I did that for the joy of it. I did that, thinking about 3 John 2. I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health. So it's a good day and exercise. And what drove me is the spiritual concepts, not no financial motivation. No. So we don't want to encourage youth in that direction in terms of money, money, money. Everything is about money, So I think it is sad. But that one resonated. And the one with the Constitution that you're talking about now, the Westminster versus,
yes,
our
Yeah. I thought that was amazing as well. Is there any other part while we wait, because you just came, I give you the floor to go ahead and
No. I'm good. As I said, I'm still condensing because he really dealt with as Maxine rightfully said, he dealt with this in a very comprehensive manner. There's so many areas that he touched. So I want to go over and watch over again, to really condense. So I don't want to speak specifically on anything
on
except
anything,
for those areas.
any one thing. Well, we're still waiting on Dave as we go into we're going to do the Constitution, and right after that, then I'm going to open the lines so you to call in. But we would like to hear from Mr. Thorne tonight, because I know everybody, you might have been at work and didn't get to hear everything. So while we wait on Dave, let me just apologize. Miss McLean, you notice I dropped out a little bit there. My whole computer had shut down.
Yeah, I didn't realize, actually.
And let me just apologize to the viewers for that. We how it goes sometimes when we're doing something major, these things happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting through, and apology for that, because I hate to have a blank screen there, but at least Miss McLean was there holding down the fort for us. All right, so guys, remember, right after we do the Constitution, we play that section, and I want us, Miss McLean and Mr. Lewis, when we're doing that section, I want you to take notes, guys. Even if you have to use your phone, you have to use.
You want me to take more notes, Marcia?
But I'm serious because it is.
You actually have notes that I'll look for my notes that I wrote on that. See,
Yeah,
right.
because it was easy to understand what he was saying, because we had that experience with one of our viewers, Mr. Adrian Ford. Adrian Ford, did I say that right?
Adrian Ford.
Yes, I think that's Adrian. I forgot your name, but the point is that we are building line upon line. We're learning more and more. And I say, guys, Mr. Thorne had 6 C's that he dealt with. Is it 6 C's?
5.
5 C's.
6. I think, yeah.
And you have them there, Miss McLean?
Yes, I'll find them. Crime, cost of living. I'll get them, so I get them.
Anybody who remember,
I have them here. Crime.
Yeah, but before you go, let me see the people. Can the people put in there for me what are the 5 C's that Mr. Thorne was talking about today? 5 C's.
6. You were right. 6.
6 C's. 6 C's. Put it in there. We're doing school tonight. Put it in the chat if you got it. Okay. 6 C's. If anybody can remember that, you're going to win one of the cups, the Marcia Week Show Cup at the March. You pick it up at the March. We still didn't see the people that won before to give them their winning mug. Okay, so you get a mug. All right, Kamar is going to check for me to find the right people. But let's hear about the Constitution, and go right ahead, Dave. Thank you so much.
General here today, that the existence of a constitution of a specific nature is vital to the security of this country, the safety of this country, the psychological comfort of the citizens of this country. These are not pretty words. These are harsh realities. That the absence of a Republican constitution bears grave consequences for peace and security in this country. That powers of officials of state are ill-defined. Nobody knows who has what power, and everybody now feels that one person has the power. And that is where we are. And every public institution stands at risk. Not many people will articulate it, but they feel it. They feel the overwhelming presence of unlawful power in their lives. They feel that they cannot complain about anything. And they see one man in this parliament meeting the fiercest resistance
to the simplest questions, that is evidence. That is evidence of a government that is likely to abuse its power. That is evidence of a government that does not recognize the limits of political and legal power. That every simple question that is asked, every simple statement that is made, is seen as a statement in hostility to the government's comfort. And while the government remains comfortable, the people out there are uncomfortable because they too believe that their rights and interests and entitlements are at risk in the face of a tyrannical government, a government that does not respect constitutional rule, a government that respects only its own power. And that, as I said before and I say again, worthy of repetition, might is right and all that is right is might. And as long as you have might, you don't worry about justice. Justice becomes irrelevant. Propriety becomes irrelevant. And all the constitutional and political values become abandoned. And it is only might that becomes right. The only virtue in this country is the possession of political power. The law does not matter. The Constitution does not matter. Decency does not matter. None of those things matter in the face of a tyrannical government. A government which has started to believe its own myth. This is a jurisprudential discussion. We are discussing the law. A government that has begun to believe its own myth, the myth of its infallibility, the myth that no citizen has the right to challenge this government. And what is the basis of that feeling? Is it that figure called 30 love? Well, it is no longer 30 love. And that has been obvious since last February. And my endurance is not intended to attract sympathy towards myself. If I needed sympathy, I would not have been here. I would not have been here. I repeat, I am alone, but I'm not lonely. And I challenge any member of this government to go into the public domain
Let's pause
and
there.
ask the public.
I think, Dave, if where we started, thank you for that. I think that part was good. But if where we started in this, if we could go back, right, wherever you started in this, I think he's now at the end of that speech on the Constitution, I think, Ms. McLean.
Yeah,
So we
go back a little
needed to
bit.
go further. Wherever you started, if you could, we will just take it out, and because we want to go into that. But what he was saying was that there are no rights. If you can't, when we don't have the Constitution, we basically are operating in a lawless environment. Anything goes. Mr. Lewis, you heard him talking about that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this particular dimension I brought up in the discussion show earlier, because I'm just wondering, what are we being guided by? Because there isn't no existence. I think that was with Mr. Ferdinand, because we don't have a Republican constitution. So we are finding that a lot of things are happening in our society, and we can't make reference to constitutional rights because we are Republican based upon the transfer that we would have gone from being independent now to be a country, as a republic. But what is guiding us? We don't have any. And I think that was quite unfortunate that we made this transition without a constitution to guide us. So, anything goes. And as he rightfully said, this whole concept of power, that might is right. And we would have seen this demonstrated in some very significant ways over the past couple of months, especially with our, young friend, Dr. Hills, where she thinks within herself, Miss Piggy, that might was right. Given the Constitution, really that would have been there as a tool to guide the whole process. But as it is clearly seen, might is right.
Mm-hmm.
In so many other ways, we can see where might being perceivably right, ventilates itself based upon the mobilization of what she perceives as policies. We can see it in so many ways.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, thank you, Mr. Lewis. Your dogs are speaking as well.
Oh, yes, of course, of course, of course. They are also suffering.
Hopefully not at your hand.
No,
Hopefully not at your
let me
hand.
mute you
The
a little
cost
bit
of
so that
living, man. The cost of living, man. The cost
yes,
of living.
because a
That
little
go.
bit. Let me mute you a little bit so that because the noise is coming through.
Yes, I.
But let me just congratulate Rachel Thornhill. That's who I saw. Rachel Thornhill has all 6 C's. And this is something that everybody write this down or put it down in your phone. Put it in your phone, please. I'm going to go through them right now. It's crime. Crime. Everybody write it down. Crime. These are the 6 scourges. It said the 6 scourges affecting Barbados. Crime, cost of living, culture of moral decay, constitutional malaise, crisis of competence in government. A lot of you forgot about that one. Corruption. Yeah? So crime, cost of living, culture of moral decay, constitutional malaise, crisis of competence in government, and corruption. All right? Correct. So Rachel Thornhill, you are the winner of that cup. Call me, please. 1-246-236-7000. This is the Marcia Weeks mugs. All right. So give me a call so that you can get them picked up. All right. Everybody, make sure you write this down because you got to know what it is that we're all talking about. And I think when we put, all of what we're concerned about really can be put under these headings right here. Yes, go ahead, Miss McLean.
I was just gonna say quickly, the order which he did was crime, corruption, cost of living, culture, moral decay. But I want to read something that he said because I wrote a note when he said constitutional malaise. He said the people were told on November 30th, 2021, this democracy became a parliamentary republic. Barbados perhaps is the only country in the world that claims to, make sure I got the right page, claims to be, such a republic. But at the end of the day, we really don't have the constitution, So you're a republic, but you don't have a constitution, Republican constitution. And then later on, as you saw in the clip, he's explaining because he spoke about this at the beginning. You see, one of the things, and I'm happy that you did this because I want to put that in a context. Because at the beginning, and he started to speak, me, Marcy, at 12 minutes past 3 o'clock. I wrote it down when he started. But he said a budgetary statement is, among other things, a political statement. And he therefore felt that as you talk about that, you reflect on social policy, political policy, and the law, and whatever. And then he gave you a background in terms of the history of Barbados that has led us to where we are now, and some important historic landmarks, etc. And that is to get people to understand that when he got into analyzing the issues around the numbers, because you see, I think the Prime Minister, I didn't listen to I don't know who spoke before her because I left to go to church, as I told you, and got to church late. After Mr. Thorne stopped speaking, and then the first person to reply was the Minister of Labor. So I'm not sure what he said. But the point was that his important point was for you to understand what is happening to Barbados, for you to be able to evaluate the content of the budget. You cannot do that in isolation. You have to understand where we've come from, what brought us there. Sorry, and essentially, as we try to understand the decisions that are being taken, why some things are difficult, while Old Town, for example, while, Gibbs Beach, why others happen at Joe's River and so on, are causing people great concern, while the wholesale disappearance from access. That's how I describe it. Let me just sip some water. Why all of those things are hard for Barbadians to take. Why, when we look at the wastage, I mean, you know, I heard as I listened to the Prime Minister try to explain why we are paying a French tax advisor $2 million Barbados dollars or 1 million US. Now, yes, he might have come from OECD, but when people look at the background of not one but more than one head of BTI or BTMI as it is now, we brought in expatriates and it didn't work out, and they would have obviously, to attract them, would have been paid more than a local would have been paid. When you look at these things, why is it that Barbadians find it hard to take? Because we as a small country would have invested heavily in the education of our population post-independence, and the idea is that we do not negate ourselves by failing to recognize that we can find within ourselves. I'm not saying that on every instance we can do everything ourselves, but when you look at the track record of this administration, you are seeing a lot of decisions that make you wonder, are you giving any consideration to those people who were brought up in our system of education, you know, social upbringing, all of these things? You know, what is wrong with us? That's what some people are saying, that we are being shoved aside, literally and figuratively. You know, I don't know if Victor, what your thoughts are in reaction to what I'm saying. I think Victor might be muted, Marcia, because of the noise.
Yeah, the dogs. Yeah, go ahead, Victor.
No, I'm asking Maxine to continue.
Okay, no, because you see, because you know, I hear people and trying to make it out, and they say I'm not xenophobic, but why do we have a CEO at the hospital when we had, in fact, a good Caribbean CEO who I know, because I was part of the recruitment team, did a very good job at the QEH, but for some reason left us very suddenly. After my recollection is that he was present in an estimates debate of all things, and left the well apartment of Parliament, and I don't know if he was back on duty. He probably was on sick leave or whatever, and then he resigned, and he's working elsewhere, doing for another Caribbean country what he was doing for us at the QEH. You know, so I you know, the other thing is, I was speaking to a parent, one of my colleagues, and he was saying that his son was anxious to hear, you know, I guess the kind of things that you heard towards the end of the night. I said, but what the young people need to understand is that fireworks, because I think that's what some people look for, fireworks, you know, in terms of delivery and whatever. I said, but what you need to understand is this is also a process of educating you to make sense of what you're hearing and to understand how you will evaluate the decisions of the government, and why you have to be worried when, for example, if you're talking about housing, what is our history of making housing available to poor people? And if that is an important thing, can we accept wastage? Remember, we talked about hope on this program long before we heard it discussed in the parliamentary, you know, arena, that kind of thing. It was touted as a project that was going to do all these marvelous things, until we got information here and we started to dissect it to realize that in fact, if you listen to Mr. Thorne, he said, I remember, and I heard it in the estimates, that the Minister of Housing was saying that the houses were sold at cost. Now, what Mr. Thorne revealed, and I don't know if the minister has, well, based on what he said, Mr. Thorne countered that with the fact that the houses were handed over to the people at below cost. Now, I say to the Minister of Housing, if that is not correct, bring the figures, bring some contracts and show me. You don't have to show me who the buyer was, but show me what the cost was, what the transfer figure was, or what the sale was. And let me see if it was at cost, if you sold it for small profit, or if, as Mr. Thorne suggested, it was below cost.
Yeah. Thank you, Miss McLean. And as she said, she takes copious notes. But let me just remind people that you can call in. This is don't get too comfortable. We want to hear from you. Here is somebody who stood up there for almost 11 hours speaking on our behalf. And so tonight, can you call in, register? How did you what are the moments in the speech that you like? What are your thoughts? I know you're writing it, but say it. Say it that, I don't know if he's listening. He probably fast asleep. But say it so that it's something that he can hear. These comments are gonna go, and as Miss McLean said, we all give up our time. Okay, here's somebody calling through. 1 second. Hello, caller. Welcome. And we're going to ask you kindly to turn down your device that you're listening on. But thank you so much for calling. Good night. How are you?
Good night. I'm fine.
Yes, sir.
I'm calling in respect of a part of the budget that concerns me very much. The strictly speaking, actually.
Hello, sir. You're getting your $32 a month.
I expect to get my $32 a month, but
Yes.
I did not. I'm calling in respect of the increase in the catastrophe levy. Now, I have not heard anyone speak in respect of that matter. Now, the
Mr.
catastrophe
Thorne
levy-
did speak on that.
Okay.
Yes, we're gonna. Yes, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear it myself. But
Mhm.
the catastrophe levy is only paid by the employee at present,
Mhm.
which is 0.1%. Now, that is going up to 0.25%.
Mhm.
So that from the beginning of this increase, there's going to be a sudden less take-home pay for all workers in Barbados.
Mm.
So that as much as we are talking about a no tax budget, this is going to be a loss to every worker in Barbados.
Mhm.
Now, the situation is that there is a maximum of $5,280. But as I said earlier, the employer does not make a contribution towards the catastrophe levy.
Mhm.
But with this new ruling, both the employee and the employer is not going to be paying the same 0.25. But all persons, because they said only $5,280 is reported to the National Insurance Department.
Mhm.
But with the new legislation, the catastrophe levy is going to be paid on your full salary. So that if you have a person working for, say, $8,000, it means that the employer is not going to be paying 0.25 on the $8,000, which is a whopping amount of money.
Right.
And it means that the employee, I don't know how they're going to do the reporting to National Insurance, in that only $5,280 will be reported. But I'm saying I have not heard the Barbados Employers Confederation, but I might have missed that. They have not spoken out about that sudden increase in employers' contribution to the National Insurance Fund. So, and I'm speaking of, and you can do the math. So if you have a person working for, say, $10,000, the employer is going to be paying 0.25% on that full amount.
Mhm.
And therefore, I think that when we sit down and we analyze, and this is not a contribution that remains at the National Insurance Department.
Mhm.
Remember, National Insurance is only a collection agency. This money is transferred to the consolidated fund or wherever to be managed by Parliament. And therefore, one person may say the National Insurance has gone up. National Insurance has not gone up. But the deductions from person's salary is going up. Both the employee
and the
way up to person's present salary, and know the increase to the employer. And that's the part that for many years they have the employers have fought against an increase in national insurance because of the cost to them. But I would love to believe that in the analysis of the budget, that if it was not said, it should have been said by the Employers Confederation that the employers now are going to face a tremendous cost. So that, based on my experience having worked there for the period of time that I worked, I'm telling you that this is going to bring tremendous hardship. So you have that
Wow.
situation where persons who are only paying now up to $5,280, and talking with the employees, their deduction now is going to be going up to their maximum, to their present salary. So their take home pay could anything like $500 less.
What?
Excuse me. If you do the math, okay, if you do the math on 0.15% increase up to a salary of just give me 1 minute here. I'm Maxine is better at doing these things than I can, but I'm just saying that let me just drop this information there so that
and while you're doing that, let me just say I would love if we can have a show and this is done up in a PowerPoint, Mr. Strickland, because you used to work at the NIS, and I remember Mr. Franklin is who introduced you to us and he recommended you highly, and that's why you would have recognized that this is an error. So I made an error. I actually didn't hear Mr. Thorne speak on this, to be honest. It's something else. I was mixing it up. I'm so sorry.
But I'm not saying Mr. Thorne. I'm not talking about Mr. Thorne not speaking about it. I'm speaking about the
impact
agencies that have looked at the budget. You want what I'm saying?
Right.
They were the ones, as far as I'm concerned, especially Barbados Employers Confederation. I would have expected that they would have spoken on it because Minister Colin Jordan sat on the National Insurance Board for many years while part of the Barbados Employers Confederation. He was their representative. So he's well aware of this increased cost, but obviously he would not have spoken to the issue during his presentation. But I'm saying that I'm not certain. I think Tanis, she is the Barbados Employers Confederation representative. I'm not certain who the person is, but if they did speak to this issue, because from what I saw on television, the comments were very generous towards the budget, which I expected. But I'm saying that this is one issue which is a tremendous cost to employers in Barbados.
Yeah, because I was saying to myself, as soon as you started, I said, so what did Mrs. Tanit say today then? Because I would think that the employers would be crying about this, but it seems like everybody's singing from the same song.
I'm looking here, Marcia, at a part of a report. Experts warn wage hikes, tax measures risk fueling inflation. And this is something, I think this is this is Barbados Today. A combination of minimum wage increases, tax adjustments, and public sector wage hikes could propel the country towards economic instability. Economists and private sector officials warned on Tuesday in response to the government's budget. And they have 3 photographs here. Professor Winston Moore, Dr. Tricia Tanis, and Dr. Antonio Allen, a lecturer in economics. So that article touches on some of this. So,
yes.
And so usually there are a number of responses. So if you can look at those and come back to having reviewed them,
Yeah,
so
you can send that to me, Miss McLean. Send that article, and we really should do a show probably. With if we can get some accountants, we need to see figures.
Right.
Mr. Lewis, see some figures and have it laid out so that people can follow and people get Mr. Strickland involved and get just get some figures and that's the hard figures so that we can take a look at it and see what is happening there. Mr. Lewis, go ahead.
I'm here in reference to impact on employers. But will it be also impacting employees that the take-home pay will be less?
Yes.
I think, Marcy, I think you're muted just now.
Yes, I was speaking to a caller and to ask them to
Oh.
put their, yeah, I'm sorry about that. Continue, Mr. Lewis.
No, I was just wondering, I heard that you were making reference to the impact upon employers, but the caller earlier mentioned that the take-home pay will be less, so wouldn't it also be an impact on employees?
Correct. There would be, and that's why, you know, we can calculate it at different wage levels. And then, you know, and to look at also that 2% increase in minimum wage that people are being so excited about, which is really 17 cents, as Caswell Franklin worked out, is 17 cents, that you're making per day, really. But there's a caller here. Good night, caller.
Yes, good night to you, Marcy, and good night to everyone that's listening.
Yes, good night.
I have a concern that when these people leave power, the amount of damage they're going to leave behind. I know what happened to Erskine Sanford, where that the foreign private sector, the lending agency would not lend him money, and he would not get the favors that the other party would have got. Well, I don't know if it will happen to Mr. Thorne when he come into power, if the opportunity will be still given to him, because clearly they're being funded more than the opposite party. And they also, I don't know if they're taking the front to help push the campaign, because we find a lot of facts and stuff going on. And there's a culture in Barbados with a negative culture with a lot of partying and dressing up and stuff. No, you don't want people to be happy. That is a vibrant culture that think that they're controlling. And that is the same culture that will come up now when the election comes out to start pushing for something that they don't know what they're pushing for. But hearing you on the street today speaking to them, I can take back a little bit of that talk, because I like what I saw, how the people interact with Mr. Thorne. And by the way, he did a marvelous job. I can't add, I can't subtract. That is the best speech I've ever heard from any politicians, not disrespect to Arbar or nothing like that. But he spoke to everyone, and I can't even, anything somebody want to think about what's going wrong or what they want to see happen, just listen to the speech. It's that great. It's better than action, comedy, anything like that. That's all I wanted to say.
Yes. Thank you so much, caller. Do you have any funny moments in the speech? Is he still there?
Funny moment. You said funny moments.
Yeah. Did you have anything that caused you to laugh out loud at home or at work or wherever you were?
You tell them actually put on the seatbelt, and somebody says somebody get a little bit of turbulence, you know, those kind of things. And he's so brilliant. I mean, there's too much to actually think about now, but you're gonna get it as time go along. You will get it.
Yes.
And I think too many people are in the dark with education. They're teaching people about how to work for companies, how to work for us. They need to teach people how to work for themselves, how to think for themselves. But the people are being side distracted by all this hard cost of living and stress. That is the tool they use, and the people be side distracted from the reality what's going on.
Yes.
We're losing Barbados, and the poverty is a part of their tool.
Yes. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, have a nice
Thank you
night.
so much. Thank you. Guys, am I breaking up? Can you hear me clearly, Miss McLean? And
yeah, I'm here. You're fine.
Yes, I can. I can hear you.
Okay, someone was telling me that we're breaking up. Okay, there's a caller on the line. Good night, caller. Welcome to the Marcia Wheat Show.
Hello.
Good night. Good to hear you.
Yes, I'm here. I have a couple questions for Maxine.
Yes, go right ahead, caller.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, Marcia. This.
Yeah. Can you turn down your device, please?
Yeah, I just did.
Okay. Wonderful. So go right ahead, caller. Yeah. Hello. Good to hear you.
Hi. Yeah. This is Adrian. Maxine, I have two questions for you. Because I had put it in the chat, but I guess it got buried, and I really like to get an answer to it. How was Thorne allowed to speak for so long? I was of the opinion that the time he get would be matched with the time the Minister of Finance spoke for the Lieutenant Minister.
No, from what I understand in
Not
the
this
House, the leader, the opposition, and the Prime Minister have unlimited time.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's it. He has
Okay.
unlimited time.
And
that's
the
why.
question: Did you hear any? Did you hear any of the BLP speakers talk about the Constitution part that Tom spoke about?
The only person I heard a bit of his, well, I actually heard the introduction because I had to leave. I left basically immediately after Mr. Thorne spoke, and after Minister Jordan spoke, they broke for lunch, and then I wasn't listening until this evening when I got home, and I heard the Prime Minister just before, and she was speaking when I shut down to come on to the show and to listen to the show. So I haven't heard the other MPs who have spoken. I'm not even sure how many have spoken at this point.
Yeah, I can go back and listen though, because I want to hear who's going to rise to that and what they would have to say, because this is I know
I suspect you won't hear much.
Anybody that I wasn't the only body that knew that there was really a problem, a significant problem with our system of government. But so it was so heartwarming to hear it in Parliament being told, very, very clear, you can't have a republic while practicing Westminster government. It just doesn't work.
Don't work. But let me call her, if I can just interject here, because there's some people who said that, why did he have to talk for 10 and a half, almost 11 hours? And it's exactly it's a very strategic thing he's doing. So he's raising all of these issues here because he now has a platform to raise it. So it's a very, very very, very clever thing he's done, because here it is. Remember, he's by himself, so he compartmentalized everything and raise everything right there. What were your general feeling about? What is your general thoughts and feelings about this speech?
It was fantastic. I mean, the delivery. I'm one of those Barbadians that don't really go for a lot of long talk unless you're really good at your craft and you have commentary of sustenance. And I was engaged. I was supposed to be working, and I wasn't working. I was listening.
Yes.
I mean, the gentleman just proves, right, to those who believe that Mia Motley was some type of enigma in Barbados, where with her ability to speak so eloquently. I'm like, if she's from Barbados, there's got to be other Barbadians that can do the same thing. And this man proves that to be the case. Not only can he speak and speak clear and erudite, he can speak for long periods of time. At his age, and that's why I took into it. It was not only long; it was long for a person at his age, and he did it. And then walking about in Broad Street or wherever you went, it's just amazing. So
it is.
It was a good speech.
It really was.
I understand, as you said, the strategy that he had to get these things out, and it made a lot of sense that he did what he did.
Yes.
One last thing. One of the things that from the budget that stuck out for me personally was government looking to take 50% of savings accounts, closed savings accounts and stuff like that. And that concerned me because the way it was brought to me, I didn't fully understand how they could do that. I mean, I call into brass tacks on Thursday to get clarification. Length of time, when it's published, it goes to the central bank. It's going to be like 10 years, and that's fine. We always know that Barbados has a implementation deficit problem where they state what they're going to do, but somehow the reality that doesn't work out. So there's always that possibility. I had an account in Barbados where I get closed, telling me that it was dormant for 2 years, right? And so I was concerned. But even though they said that they're not gonna touch it, and it's gonna take a long time before they ever touch it, this government is too fixated on people's money.
Yes.
Since they came into power, Mia Motley has been talking about people's money. In January 2019, She talked about the $9 billion in the banking system and advocated for mechanisms to channel those savings and whatever she was saying. And then in April, she talked about it again. In October of 2024, she talked about it again, right? In December 2024, someplace she talked about $50 billion in savings accounts in Caribbean, and that they need to mobilize at least $1 billion of it. So there's a history of this government under this woman that has some sort of fixation on people's savings. So I think people, irrespective of what they said about what they're going to do in this current iteration, that people need to be watchful and be concerned, because they are looking for money in it. At some point, I'm going to list out or send you a list of all the loans that they have gotten, all the money they've gotten from the IMF, from the CDB, from the IDB, from the African Export Bank. It's a lot of money, a lot of loans that this woman has gotten, and still looking for more. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So people need to be careful with their personal savings.
Wow. Thank you. As Mr. Thorne said, they turned bank robbers. All right, the government turned bank robber. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Hines. We're looking forward to your presentation. Thank you.
It's more like Alibaba and the 30 Thieves.
29. Bye-bye.
29, bye.
No, I mean, yeah, as he says, bank robbers, it's just fixated. I love what they call it, fixated, Mr. Lewis, on people's money. Okay, we have another caller here, Mr. Lewis, coming through. Good night, caller.
Good night, good night, good night, good night.
This sound like a happy caller. This caller sound happy.
I am so happy. I can tell you I was not there in 1966 when the independence thing happened at the garrison. But I understand now the pride. I understand the joy. I understand the feeling that they had when I listened to Mr. Thorne yesterday and today. That was amazing. It was strategic. Everything about it was excellent. And I must give kudos to whom kudos is due, because the Lord said give honor to who honor is due. So I give honor to Mr. Thorne. He did an excellent job. He represented me and gave me a voice in a public place, in a space that the governments of this nation can hear what I had to say, even though I personally was not there. So, Mr. Thorne, I thank you, I thank you, I thank you. On behalf of the citizens of this nation, I thank you. And I can almost say, and I am saying on behalf of God, I thank you. You did an excellent job of representing the citizenry of Barbados. Excellent. And I have a few points to make.
Go right ahead.
Like Mr. Lewis said, processing, because there was so much. Now, remember he said that the Public Accounts Committee was shut down. He had to find a space to talk, to bring out the matters for the people to hear.
Yes.
He did it. There was another committee he said was also not allowed to function. He brought out the matter that committee was also supposed to represent. Excellently, the people heard it. There was no more rumors. There was no more social media input on this issue. It was brought to the public in the correct forum. Excellently done. Now, there's a lot of persons that say there's no new taxes, etc. I know the saying is a man is presumed innocent until proven guilty. But as far as I'm concerned, this government is guilty until presumed or proven to be innocent. So everything that I hear from them, I must conclude as a lie until I can be proven otherwise. Now, they say no, they ain't giving no more real taxes. I don't believe them. They leave room for it to be done after the budget. These things are going to come in and be laid upon the citizenry of Barbados. Like the first caller was saying about the 1.0, is it 1.0?
It's yes.
Or
So
2.0?
right, it's from 0.1 to 0.25. So there's an increase of 0.15% of your pay.
This government will find a way to get money out of you. So this budget was just a facade. They're going to use that plus to get money from the public. Now, I do not have a clue as to where all this money is going. Hundreds of millions since 28, hundreds of thousands, almost of millions of dollars. And we cannot see as a nation where it is going. There's no real development. There's no development period. The stadium's still in shambles. The roads, the potholes, I was driving with a friend, oh Lord, we nearly could have run off the road because we hit a hole. Wow. We hit a hole. I tell you, we could just shout and say for Jesus because we don't understand. And we did not the only one. That's not the only hole. Where is all this money going? Where is the fruit of it? This is boggling my brain. I cannot get it, understand. I can't see it. If we could see that, they say they're pouring it into whatever, I would say, okay, and they're racing in that area. But I ain't seeing anything.
Yeah.
But anyway, I would echo the sentiments of Mr. Thorne to the Prime Minister of this nation. Call election. Call election. Go ahead and call election. Don't delay. I was proud of him for saying that. Just call it. Don't wait. Just happenstance. Just slip the tongue and say it next week. Just slip the tongue and say it's next month. Just let it be a slip of the tongue. And call election.
Wow.
And we will see what happens.
Thank you so much, caller. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I was listening with a big smile on my face. I could feel your joy. Thank you. There's another call coming. So, they're coming in, Mr. Lewis. They're coming in. Let's see here. Good night, caller. Good night, caller.
Good night, Marcia. This is Bridget.
Yes.
I saw my Prime Minister make them look like idiots in the House Assembly. That is my man, and he will stay my man till as long as the Lord send him here, and he's a God saint. Leave him alone. I love that man, and I want you to call election like as yesterday. She's taking too long. How dare she call the election? Have a pleasant night, Marcia. If you want to tell me something before you go, tell me right now. I'm listening.
Listen to me. You let me hear laughing till I cried. Thank God you didn't use that word on the show.
You were going to come out, but I pull it back. Call the election, Mia. I dare you.
She's talking almost came out, but you found the right word. You found the right word. It's good to hear you, and thank you for calling.
And you might see me on Saturday in Gospel My Life. I will go and I will stay along with the police station till you get there.
Yes, this is March 22nd. Yes.
Have a nice night too. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name.
Victor Lewis.
I'm trying to get them there, stopping it too.
All right. Okay then. All right. All right.
You.
Yes. Just said that almost came out. Oh Lord, I was saying, Lord have mercy.
10-second delay.
Oh Lord, I don't have that just yet.
I know.
But my callers, they know what to do. They know what to do and not to say certain things. Oh my God, that is funny. Okay, there's another caller. Okay, wait, hold a minute. Turn down your device, please. Turn down your device.
Everything is turned on.
Yes.
Because they want everything clear as a beautiful song.
Yes.
Martha Weeks, Massimo Thing, former officer, the rest of the panelists, blessings. But I must thank Ralph Thorne graciously and heavily because he passed my message, which I couldn't gonna get past the requirement. He did a very wonderful job for me. When he said that people gonna get dismissed wrongfully and victimized, and people don't realize that the government is all about going to sabotaging people because they're for their family, friends, and fornicators. So I do not know what is the status with this government, this BLP, Amir, because the gospelly, I feel they got a lot of issues with Bajans and poor people normally. So you got to be on a team for them to be favorably consider you. And that's not good for this Barbados that are their foundation.
Yes. Yes.
So basically, I must thank Ralph Thorne heavily, but we want elections. I love what you said. I dare you call the election. I dare you call election. But I even say so. I dare she call elections.
Yes. Yes. You're ready. You're ready, caller. Caller, thank you so much for calling.
Blessings to y'all.
Yes.
Thank
yes.
you,
It's a pleasure. Yes. Mr. Lewis, you wanted to say something there. I know you're taking it all in, but we want to hear your voice.
I just sat back, for a long time. I'm just scratching my head that Miss Piggy like the platform, on so many occasions, locally and internationally. And I was just wondering, why is it that Miss Piggy was under the platform? Why didn't she take this grand opportunity, where the cameras are on you, to go there and just let it go? But I realized, Mr. Thorne brought so many facts that this would have been a session of rhetoric versus facts. And she couldn't afford that. She couldn't afford to be placed on a stage where that, Mr. Thorne, they're so highly intellectual and produce facts, solid and confident. And for that over 9 to 10 hour period, and he remained so positive, then can then leave there and go to the streets of Barbados and interact with the general public. That was wonderful.
Yes.
I am saying that our Prime Minister didn't take that stance as Ryan Strong did because she was afraid. She was afraid to stand up to the prowess of Mr. Thorne. She would not have been able to cope. And I think she did the right thing, duck out and keep ducking out.
Correct. And as somebody who loves the limelight, she was not
interesting.
Not around. Callers, we have 2 more minutes to go. And I'm getting stuff in my phone as well that I'm going to send to Miss McLean that you can also pass on to the leader of the opposition. But people are, an accountant has just broken down some stuff for us here. And while she's not able to come on the show, and that's a beautiful thing I like about the show, we have people that are sending us information today. I heard from a doctor actually who is operating out of Jamaica and really talking to us, causing us to look at this whole thing with the Cuban doctors in a different way. And so that doctor is on tonight. I'm seeing her on. And believe it or not, I'm going to give you a call and we're going to look at that because it's interesting what she's saying about all these doctors that are coming into the Caribbean, into these parts,
Right.
But while we wait on callers, I must address something that's going around, Miss McLean and Mr. Lewis. I'll just take a minute. I'm not going to take a long time to address this, but it's important because we protect each other and we in that we don't protect people in wrong. But what I'm saying is that when you get up and you start to speak out, understand that they're going to come for you. They have done it for me, done it to me. Miss McLean, they've done it. They've made up. I mean, I've been here at my house and I saw a whole story made up on me. an entire story, have been made up on me, on my family, on friends, etc. Once you decide to speak. And so Don Leacock, who went to Washington, as you know, he's been speaking out. And he's getting stronger and stronger and stronger in speaking out against his government. And would you believe they've made up an entire story? I want to tell you that which you're seeing going around on social media about Don Leacock, and I'm not going to repeat it on here. I'm going to tell you some facts. Number one, that Facebook page was only put up, a couple days ago. So when it came out, it went up 2 days ago. So that's your red flag. If you understand about social media, you know that that's a fake account. Okay? And they use a white person's picture. All right. And I want to say, and the reason I'm going to show you that that's a wrong, I'm going to give my number to that person who claims that you are real. Okay. 1-246-236-7000. Send the receipts to me. Send the proof to me about Don Leacock. Send it to me, because we know that that's a fake page. And one of the things that they said on that page is that he has the charity is not real.
No, that's not good.
Don's charity is registered. Don charity pays does his his taxes,
reporting and so on.
Reporting and so on. He has a number. He has a TAMIS number. He's a registered charity.
Not good.
And not only that, Miss McLean, but Don Leacock. Don Leacock was honored by the Ministry of Youth under this same government. Okay? So understand that. Why would they be honoring somebody and he was honored because of his charity? Because of his charity.
They would check those things. I mean, this is the kind of nonsense that happens, and it's not peculiar to, it's unfortunate. And then you have to I have heard somebody, and this was not what I heard about. I have had said to me, let me put it that way, and by a prominent member of the party, somebody with whom I had to associate. And the person said, man, if I tell a lie and you ever get ahead, you can have a hard time pulling it back. Or their favorite saying is, I got a file on you. And I said, you can have a file on me because my life is an open book. Anything that you say, once it's true, I can tell somebody. So once it's something true about me, is nothing to hide.
Correct.
And they do that. And there's this whole, look, I have heard of pressure being exerted on people working in organizations around here. I was going to call one a general one, but there's some organizations that there are not too many of them around. And people are walking around uneasy, And I say this because I've heard people, there's one thing for people to say, oh, people are afraid. But another one, when people can give you evidence of pressure being brought to bear on people to either support, be part of, and whatever. And that's unfortunate, because we say we live in a democracy, and so people should be free to choose. Freedom of association, these are things that we talk about, that we boast about even,
Yes.
Then people just don't support certain people, and all of a sudden you're evil. You shouldn't, you should be threatened, and people's livelihoods are threatened.
As somebody here is saying, Mr. Lewis, it's sad psychological abuse on a daily basis, because we started the show talking about fear, Mr. Lewis, and how to overcome fear and speaking out and so on. And I realized that the moment I started speaking out, we had, and I can say it, I've said it on the show, and it's a fact, where David Commission wrote an entire lie about what I was involved in and about me. And complete lie, like made up. I've seen that political prostitute man wrote a whole lie on me and send it out. And I hear other people repeating it and put it on other pages. So what am I saying here, Mr. Lewis, that sometimes these things put fear in people. Do you have any thoughts on this before we close?
Well, I saw this item too with Don in social media, but there's another section of social media that is seemingly suggesting that the intent is to frame him, that they believe that he's honest, but that there's a move afoot to frame him. So that aspect of Facebook and other sections of social media seems to be an environment countering each other. So we've got to let it play out, to see what materializes. But that's not the important here nor there, because as soon as you stand up and speak out, people are going to attack you. They attack Jesus Christ, and they attack him to a point where they took his life. So why should be fear? Just move on merrily.
Yes.
There are two other things that I wanted to mention. Not for discussion per se, but things of concern. Um, ICBL is one of the investors. And this name just came up to some extent with some degree of surprise, as the case may be. I'm just wondering, if we can ventilate, this with a view of ICBL being Insurance Corporation of Barbados Limited, taking a stance to rob the owners of trades. That is something that I would really like to look at, because we were looking at, investors coming from the international market. But here we have, because it was advertised internationally, but here we have now ICBL. And I'm just wondering, being a business here in Barbados, if they don't have a conscience when they're dealing with their homegrown, with pigeons, with the owners of that trans land. I would love that discussion to go a little further on another occasion.
Yes. I'll follow up that with you, Mr. Lewis.
We need to dig deep.
Yeah, we need to go into that a bit more. I'll give you a call on that. Well, on that note, we are going to we don't have enough time to go back to the videos, but we have Friday. Friday we're going to find that bit for you on the Constitution, and then we're going to complete that whole Mr. Thorne in Bridgetown. We're going to go through it again and have some more fun with that. That was just hilarious. And it was just a good feeling. It just put a nice smile on your face. So we're going to do more of that, Mr. Lewis. And each night listen, we have material for days.
What lost?
We have material for days. We need all the panelists. This is what we need to be tearing apart this.
Yes.
Coming and all of us look at it. We take out a half hour each show and let us drill down into this, right? And get it, break it down for the people of Barbados. Yes, so that's what we're going to focus on, education. Right, that's what we're going to do. But let's just close tonight, Miss McLean. Any final words there?
Well, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Thorne, but as he pointed out, there was a team who would have come together to share of their knowledge and so on. And I think that's the kind of approach that is beneficial. And it is about giving back in the interest of your country and the people of this country. And on this show, when he first decided he would cross, remember, Marcia made a pledge to support him and whoever had in the Senate. That was even before he signaled he was coming back to the Democratic Labour Party. But I think Barbados is the better for it, having a voice on the other side of the government benches in Parliament. And I pray that he will continue to represent, and that he would take good care of himself so that he has the energy and so on, the clarity of mind and so on to do the kind of work that he's doing.
Yes, well said. And Mr. Lewis, any final thoughts before we close?
Dr. Crystal Haynes constitutes a very significant part of the gold mines for this country, Barbados.
Mm.
She's a very significant part of our gold mine as far as youth is concerned in Barbados. I cannot sit back to see such talent being dragged to the mud. That needs some significant ventilation because she has potential out of this world that must be given the type of landscape wherein to flourish.
Wow, that is powerful. Oh my Lord, that leave me speechless right there.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you so much. Thank you so much to the panelists. You came on last minute, jumped on tonight, and we appreciate you. Thanks to the guests that we had from Gibbs. Sunny was on, and she was amazing, and so was Jehan Sator from Brighton, our psychologists. A young psychologist. Thank you to them for joining us, and for every single one of you for joining tonight. Together we make up the opposition. Together we hold up the arm of Mr. Thorne inside there. We hold up his arm. Every single one of you. You mean you're part of this. You're part of it. We do it together. Thank you all. God bless you. Have a great night. Thank you to Dave, who's ready to play some Stinging Bees. So hang around. Dave is coming to you with Stinging Bees. Hit them with it, Dave.
Were you ever sting by a bee? A bumblebee in the heart of your own country. Your own country. Well, I feel a sting on me bottom and look to see what was wrong. A swarm of bees around me and threaten my property. Them stinging you and you quiet because you don't have a bee. Them stinging me and I don't like it because I can't live in trees. Billy is a bee, Willie is a bee, Thorne is a bee, so it's stinging everybody. Daddy is a bee.
Good night, guys.
Good night. Bye-bye.